like me that most people would tell, but even Kim. So I met Kim on the Patriot account.
And we're talking
And
Kim Coulter, just
yes,
for the listeners.
yes, Kim Coulter.
Our
We have,
Skype interview, actually.
yes, yeah, actually. So I listened to her BitChute, and then I heard her with you guys. But I've been following her kind of on Periscope for a little while, and then she started the gun group, which I was really excited to try and work on and get involved in as much as I could.
Yeah, and
But
just to shout her out, that's Motivated Gun Girls of America on Instagram, for those of you interested.
the MAGOA, I think, is what our handle is.
That's Magawa. Is what I
Meg,
call it.
yeah. Well,
Magua.
it's supposed to be like MAGA, obviously, but there's an O for of.
But it's more like Magui. What are they called from the
Magawa.
Gremlins?
Oh, Mogi?
What?
No,
I can't remember that.
I don't know.
I think I know
A
what you guys
Mogwai.
are talking about, actually.
The Gremlins? You've never seen the Gremlins?
From freaking I just remember what's his face, Gizmo, because he
Yeah.
mattered, right?
Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
Magua. No, they all matter. They all matter so much. Especially people hated on part 2. I love part 2 when they're in that business. Anyway,
I
getting
don't think I've seen
sidetracked.
part
We
2
always do.
forever. I think I watched it once. Like, wait, how old are you guys again? Because I feel like we're
100.
all, if you don't mind me asking.
I don't know how old Frank is. We still haven't gotten to the bottom of that. I'm 32.
Oh,
Well, no, because I
No,
was.
wait,
I
hold
was
on. How old am I? I'm 30.
Yeah,
What?
I
You're-
always.
okay.
No, because I
I
always.
don't know. I'm married. I stopped paying attention to my age when I got married.
No, because
Wow,
I
wish I could be in that position.
yeah, because
Well,
I always tell women I'm 23. Some of them actually believe me.
I don't
And
understand.
then Tony is all like, no, fucking, your real age. So now it's like, okay, exclusively for the pod, I'll be honest, I'm fucking 33.
Exclusively to the podcast. So
Then-
anybody he's dating doesn't get to know that unless they listen to the podcast.
You know what's really funny is everybody thinks I'm like 3 years younger than I am, but like most of my friends were like 2 to 3 years younger in high school, so I feel like I'm just like emotionally like I just fit in with the 3 to 4 year younger age group. But I also had a bunch of like Gen X boomer friends when I lived out west, so it's
Oh,
not
okay.
like I scale the spectrum, but when people are like, "Are you 25 or 24?" I'm like, "No," but most of my friends are 26. Does that count? I don't know.
So what? So I'm sorry, we didn't get your. So how old are you? If you don't.
29. I turned
29. Oh,
yeah.
you're little too. I'm 30. I don't know why
Yeah.
20
I
is
know, I was like,
something
I'm
funny
like,
to.
oh, we're the same age. So like pop culture references and stuff. I don't remember when Gremlins came out. Wasn't that the 80s or the early 90s?
Yeah.
I want to say 87 for the original, 89, 90 for the second. No, it's probably
So-
later than that.
Your
Yeah, it was
birth
the 80s.
year. Your birth
Whoop,
year. Yeah, is the second one. Okay,
Last
so
of
we
the
were both
80s, baby. Yeah.
I just, it's funny because
Definitely.
if you talk to people who are like 5 to 10 years older, like they remember that stuff differently. Like, you know, because it came out when they were alive. But like
Yeah.
for us, we just grew up with it. But no, I haven't watched it for a long time.
All right, well, so we're rambling on here, but let's get now that was a good little intro to get a little bit to know about your personality, and it's nice to know we can talk back and forth, and I was a little worried. I'm always worried with these Skype interviews with people that we've never talked to like vocally before and just on mic, because you miss so much without the intonation of the voice and the stuff. So anyway, so this is a completely inappropriate podcast. I am one of your hosts, Tony, along with Mr.
Frank.
And today we have the Miss Patriot on. I don't want. Are we going to give away your whole screen
Vegan
name?
Patriot, yeah, Vegan Patriot's fine.
All right, cool.
yeah.
Well, we've got a face to the name now.
Yeah,
What-
you're gonna
what-
be
what
one of
do we
the only
need-
people getting my face, by the way. So
We need to let people know where to find us, Frank. Where can they find us?
They
I mean,
can-
if they're watching this, you already found us, as you like to say. But for those who want to share the information, let them know where else they can find us.
Yeah, so you can find us on Instagram under CI Podcast, on Twitter under Completely Inept with 1P. You can find us on Facebook, on YouTube, and on BitChute under Completely Inappropriate Podcast. But the BitChute one has a few underscores because I really didn't think that one through.
I still want to know if Bitchute intended for it to be bitchute.
I wondered that too. Actually, I'm not even gonna lie.
Because I get it, it's a bit, and it's like a shoot for megabits, whatever, gigabytes, bits. I get it. There's some,
I
but
don't get
it's
it at all.
bitchute. It is. Can't deny it.
Yeah, well, it's the currency you use is not necessarily Bitcoin, but it's cryptocurrency, And
that makes sense.
Yeah, and you get to mine for cryptocurrency on that page.
Well, there you go. Huh.
That's probably why it's called BitChute.
Then maybe they're just calling out YouTube for being little bitches.
Yeah.
We'll shoot
A lot of people are crossing over to BitChute from YouTube.
So stupid. I'm sorry. I digress. Anyway, so Miss Patriot, why do you
I
have
like the theory.
why do you have a whole separate account? Why are you doing this whole behind the scenes underground character kind of thing?
Well, you guys have partners, both of you, I'm assuming, right? You
Yeah.
have girlfriends? Okay, so you're also...
I'm the closest thing to a partner he's got, but I don't put out, unfortunately. Poor guy.
Yeah.
Damn. Not even like a threesome. That sucks.
With my wife, she doesn't share.
Well, see, it sucks, dude. Well, okay, you guys are boys, right? So there's that. Like, you never have to really worry about weird stuff happening to you. I did not start into politics as anything other than just an observer. And, like, I think the first podcast that I really listened to that I felt like I was connected to was The Scoop, because they were free thinkers. So, like, after that, I started kind of talking to more people, but I've just had so many things going on, I really didn't get involved. So, like, all these people are on my personal page. Like the people that matter, they're more on my personal page. But I didn't want to have a Patriot account on that page, obviously, because that's been my page since I was, like, freaking 2012 when Instagram came out.
And there are people that just straight up can't handle political discussions when they're just know you privately. They don't know you for your politics. And all of a sudden, when you come out with your politics, people will just straight shut you out.
Who are you? Yeah. Well, and if you notice, I'll drop some baby red pills on my personal, but I archive them eventually. It's not because of the fact that I'm, like, afraid of having it up. It's just, like, it's not the point of my main account, but I do try to, like, subtly get people to, like my one girlfriend, she loved Elizabeth Warren, and I'm like, baby, have you looked into her history? She's like, well, no, she just seems really awesome. I'm like, oh my God.
She's part Native American, you know.
Yeah,
she's spiritual.
I'm more Native American than her, and that was, like, my grandpa, so...
Yeah, like, my great-grandmother was, like, the Blackfeet tribe here in the Coahuiltecan tribes in the valley. Like, I mean, most of the Texas was... The Coahuiltecans is the general name for all the natives in this particular area from, like, South to
I don't know any natives in Texas, because I think mine...
No, because they were all killed. Sorry, they were all killed and moved out. It's just a fact. Really.
The ones that survived were moved out. There's still some. There's a few.
You're right. There's a friend. I wish I remembered her name. Not my friend, but my friend's sister, who I was never really. But she's a fairly well-known artist who does a lot of Native American style paintings and stuff. But Anciso was their last name. I want to say Natalie Anciso. You should look up her artwork. It's really nice.
That last name sounds familiar, actually.
Yeah, you can find her on Instagram. We'll post a link for it for people. My sister as well is an artist, but she doesn't go the Native American route. She does do a lot of candy skull style stuff though at times.
Like
sugar skull
stuff?
Sugar skulls. Yeah. Sugar skulls. Yeah, I knew I was calling them something. Candy skulls was wrong. Candy skull are the headphones, right?
I think so.
Candy phone headphones. All right. Anyway.
I don't know what that is. I'm so confused.
Oh, don't worry about it. I do that to people all the time.
It's not important. Okay.
No. So what do you do on your off time?
Well, so I have...
Go to rallies?
Yeah, I wish. If I didn't have my medical condition, I would probably go to a lot more. But so, like, the entire reason I even got into politics is because at all. And I'm not even going to say politics. I'm going to say, like, nutrition, just because I started getting sick. I got diagnosed when I was 17. But
with what now? Let's clear, because you're starting to talk about it.
I guess I always forget to do this, but the bottom line is it's a pain in the ass to pronounce, and people are going to look it up and they're going to be confused because doctors are still confused because it's got all these different parts to it. It's called
that's kind of the nature of a lot of cases right now. Everything people thought that doctors understood, they're realizing that it's so much more nuanced than they could ever believe.
It's more nuanced, and there was a lot of reckless experimentation, and I think our generation got fucked with that. Can I swear on here? Sorry.
No, fucking no. What's wrong with you? That's so completely inappropriate. Jesus Christ.
I knew. As soon as I said wait their
Holy Muhammad, calm down.
whatever. Yeah, no, it just like you notice a lot of people in our age group specifically, and even like younger Gen X and then Gen Z, they have a lot of mental health, they have a lot of chronic illness, but I think there's so much to it, and I think like a lot of my girlfriends in the East, and the people that have my condition in the East, they seem to have like a lot of hormonal issues. And when you think about like Flint, Michigan, think about it, girls were having birthing problems, right? Like because of the water.
And the water, yeah.
So think about infrastructure, even if it's like okay by like, governmental standards, how many of these old pieces of infrastructure are contributing to people having chronic illness? And that's just like one.
I mean, you could think about any old city that's got old pipes that were installed back before we realized that, mildew buildup and all this. There's certain bacteria that can't easily be wiped out just through regular water cleaning systems that we have in our cities, and they've never been updated. And that's just water. That's not even to mention all the crap that they put in our foods as far as keeping the shelf life longer. Yeah, it makes the canned food last longer, but it also lowers your fucking lifespan by a good dozen years or so.
Well, but they won't tell you that. They'll tell you it's nutritional.
Or at least, actually, the problem is it's not really affecting lifespan. It's the quality of life. People are living longer, but to what end? I mean,
that's a really good point, actually. I really have never paraphrased it like that, but people are living for a very long time, but it is. And it's like at such a young age, like people, okay, so my condition, it's a form of dysautonomia. So your sympathetic or your autonomic system is supposed to function and tell your body what to do. Do you guys know anything about that?
It tracks. I understand what you're saying.
Okay. So essentially there's, the sympathetic, parasympathetic, fight or flight. You walk outside and your one part of the system, you tell your hands to move. So I'm just really more explaining this for the audience. I don't know if you guys get this or not.
Of course.
So that's me.
No, yeah, we went to medical school. Yeah.
So this is what's so messed up.
We are not experts. Let's clarify this right now so you're not confused anymore. We're not experts on anything. That's why we like these conversations, because we're able to draw out some information that we never would get otherwise, not talking to people that, we shut ourselves out in these insulated little areas of life that we put ourselves in, and we never get to talk to people from, where are you from?
So I'm actually from Arizona and Ohio, but I lived in Orange County too. So I don't get sick in Orange County though, because the weather's pretty consistent, but
Oh, you should move to Texas. We're great here. It's hot.
Where are you in Texas? Because actually...
Oh, yeah. Well, South Texas. We're much safer here in South Texas. Well, although the humidity might get you.
Yes, that's the problem. Actually, I went to Houston for the first time ever in...
Houston's a different animal, though.
Houston, and then I've been to San Antonio, and I don't think I was diagnosed with my condition. I was young when I went to San Antonio. But Houston, oh yeah, the humidity is like the number one problem. That's why the dry heat works for me best.
A lot of people say that, but we're pretty humid down here, and we don't have a lot of those same issues that seem to occur in Houston. I put it more down to pollution, man. The air pollution, the quality.
Sure, yeah.
Just because it's a dense populated city, Houston is just
dirty. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little dirty sometimes. Not to mention the hurricanes, yeah. Anyway, so let's get into the politics a little bit. We've been I don't know if we're going to get to any of this.
Whatever you want to get to.
We got time. I don't know. I know you've got an appointment later this afternoon to get to, but I'm sure we'll wrap up well before that.
Yeah, plenty of time. It's like 5 minutes from my house. Oh, let me finish the description first, though, because I think I usually will start to elaborate, and then everybody gets distracted. This always happens, by the way. And then people are like, "Wait, did you tell me about that?" I'm like, "I did, but I don't think I finished." Okay. So if you walk into the sunlight, so basically my body, it just doesn't your pupils are supposed to constrict in the sun, right? That's part of your autonomic system. You do not tell your pupils to constrict, but if they do not constrict, you have a major problem and risk, burning your retinas. Your body is supposed to do that for you. So mine doesn't, and it can affect all sorts of different functions.
For instance, would that affect, if you had an irritation in your throat, would you not naturally cough up? Would that be affected as well? Because that's sort of an auto response as well, isn't it?
I think Probably mildly. I don't even know what the eye thing, but I will tell you, I don't get headaches now that I wear sunglasses and a hat all the time. And I love being outside. Like, I love being in the sun. I love the sun. I get really bad depression. So I love the sun. But
Yeah, that's a problem for myself as well. Whenever it gets overcast for multiple days at a time, it really fucks with me.
you seasonal depression. Well, you guys aren't even like Ohio, though. But I mean, I would imagine you get probably more rain than we do out here.
Possibly, yeah, we're pretty coastal, so it does come when it does come in. It can be consistent for a week
Sure.
or
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ohio's probably worse, but similar in some ways with that, because I know Houston actually reminded me a lot of Ohio, and I was like, because we went there for my brother's graduation. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to get off that tangent again. But yeah, basically,
Okay, yeah, I
um,
mean, so
I've been
this.
to Houston. It's humid, and I think, whatever. I think all your theories are actually completely spot on with Houston. But yeah, so long story short, my blood pressure doesn't regulate, so it'll just plummet, and then it won't like
Ooh.
readjust. So what happens then is my heart rate will skyrocket. And it will get to the point where if I'm not able to sit down, I will pass out. And so I used to pass out sometimes like in the shower in the morning. So heat is a big problem. So summer's here.
I bet they thought you were anemic for a long time, didn't they?
I was anemic actually, but you can fix that with diet. So I mean, I eat.
Right, but I mean, as far as like getting dizzy and needing to sit down, a lot of time, I mean, it's either blood pressure or anemia that I usually hear that is causing.
I don't actually think that they had a theory. So I had so many migraines when I was a kid. Like, I literally had surgeries probably since my toddlerhood. Like, I've had okay, so I had tonsils when I was like a toddler, and then I had a hernia surgery when I was like 9 or 10, and then I had eye muscle surgery.
How do you get hold on, how do you get a hernia at 9 or 10 years old?
Actually, I was born with it. And,
Oh, well, that's different.
That goes, well, no, that goes because I've had multiple stents. That goes back with the POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia, my condition, where there's a lot of connective tissue.
Hold on, say it one more time.
Yeah, I know, right? That's a fucking problem. Exactly.
No, it's fine. I like it. I just want to hear it again. It was a fun word. It's like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
It needs a new fucking name because you are laughing about it, but no one remembers it. And then they stare at you like you're crazy when you do talk about it. Postural.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. It's stupid. I can't, if I move up and down in a position like too quickly, I'll get really dizzy because my blood pressure can't maintain itself sometimes.
Huh.
So that's part of the orthostatic. And then they say hypotension, which is low blood pressure. Hyper is high.
Right.
So long story short with that, though, I will tell you, no, I've been tracking a lot of my own stuff myself because my doctors never did. And then my parents had to pay like $3,000 out of pocket, even though I had insurance here, to take me to a proper specialist in the network when I went to Ohio this summer. So yeah, there's so much to it. We could literally talk forever, but the bottom line is when I started getting sick, I just started really paying more attention because I was working so much.
Now, when you say I'm sorry, when you say you started paying more attention, are you talking about to what you eat as far as deciding to be vegan?
And politics, all of it. Like,
because it all does kind of go hand in hand if you.
It really does, and I didn't mean for it to. I mean, I ethically went vegan. My vegan situation, and I will eat a dead, shot to the head, non-suffered freaking deer. Like, I don't think that we were made to not eat meat, to be quite frank. However, putting things back into their natural order. Did you watch that Earthling Ed and Millie Weaver video I sent you guys? Any chance?
I think I
No,
saw it.
I didn't see that you even sent anything.
No,
I try to stay off social. I try and leave that to him.
Yeah,
a lot of the time.
I
get a little
saw it. I'm pretty sure I saw it when it came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I follow Millie Weaver too.
They probably have one of like the most. I'll probably refer that to anybody, like if they ask me about my views, because everything she debated with him, I debate with myself. So like I get all of her points, and I get a lot of people's points about, I don't know, with the environment, I'm very environmental, but I don't think America can do much more. So there's all sorts of things that make you question, right? Like, why are we giving the government more money to problems we cannot really actually fix based off of how much money we give them? Like, but yeah, no, I just,
I am listening. I'm sorry. I'm just adjusting levels here.
No, you're fine. But to answer in short, the vegan stuff, it just kind of gradually happened over time. I think I saw a video of a pig in a slaughterhouse, and it reminded me of my little, here, I'll show you actually, since my face is here. Stewie, you want to show everybody why I really got into veganism? You want to show? Look at this thing. Doesn't she look like a little piglet?
Oh.
Little tummy. So I was seeing I'm not even kidding you. I was in school and I was seeing freaking not vegans, piglets being killed like horribly, and I will never not stop watching those videos because it reminds me. But
oh, that's terrible. Yeah, they really are terrible videos. But of course, it's. I mean, now you say you're in Ohio, right?
no, I'm in Arizona, but I'm from.
Oh, you're in Arizona.
Both.
Well,
yeah.
But so you've seen the pastures on the side where they're farm grazing cattle. What kind of problems do you see in those sorts of farming institutions?
So you have a lot. Okay, so I think in my podcast with Publitarian, I mentioned ag laws, but I didn't get into them. In general,
right. That's definitely an important point.
It's huge. And I don't think people really get why. When I really started to connect the dots, it was like, why are vegans getting censored? Why are conservatives getting censored? Or for that matter, anybody who's not entirely far left. Why are we all having our like thought processes kind of are really hard to find research for? It's just like weird, and you get this mainstream rhetoric constantly. And you have a lot of censorship with vegan stuff, and you have to wonder, why would there be an ag gag law in place, right?
Oh yeah.
So for the local stuff, and actually I'm from Cleveland, so it's like I'm from the Cleveland metropolitan area, so it's not rural at all in Cleveland, but people just, I don't know. Ohio is the 7th most populated state in the country, by the way, but there are the rural parts that I don't frequent and I don't know that well. But I will tell you, even disregarding all of that, like I've seen so many videos of still privately owned, they weren't factory farms. And I know it'll happen, but I personally, until I know how to like hunt for myself, I really don't want to eat meat. I have no interest in it because I don't trust really anybody. But I do think there's plenty of good ones. Okay, like
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
gonna lie.
Now that I guess that's because I flirted with vegetarianism, and I tried to go. I guess when I was vegetarian, I was really going vegan. I mean, aside from cheese, I guess I was still eating cheese at the time. But I went for maybe like an 8-month period. But what helped, well, I'm sorry, I don't want to say helped me because I don't want to make it sound like I believe one is better than the other. I think eat meat if you're comfortable eating it. Don't eat meat if you're not comfortable eating it. To each their own. I mean,
You have to eat right. It doesn't matter what you're eating. You just have to know what you're supposed to be eating. Most Americans don't. And that's
right. Everybody's eating the
part.
STAD, right? The standard American diet. It's gross. People
Awful.
eat to be gluttonous most of the time. Or they eat for flavor, not for how it actually is affecting their body. That's the biggest one.
The food pyramid like recommended all these things, and look at the bottom of it. Like, look what was promoted. Like,
now it's flipped upside. It's literally the opposite of what we were raised. Yes. At 5, 6 years old, you want all this cereal. Eat the cereal. I ate so much cereal. And we wonder why we're all ADD. It's like, do you have any idea how much sugar we were putting into our fucking children's bodies back then?
Well,
my son doesn't drink soda. He has a sugary drink once a day, if that. You know what I mean? Like, we regulate how much junk food is. We have like a bag of chips a week, maybe. Like, and that's to share. Like, we don't play that game. I make my own beef jerky. I don't like buying it at the stores anymore because it's all fucking. Cool. Yeah, well, that was the point I was getting as far as like what you've experienced as far as farming personally, because we're in Texas, we're in South Texas, where most of us are. My wife, for instance, was in FFA, raised a sheep, or I'm sorry, what is that over there?
Yeah, it's sheep.
A lamb. She raised lambs. Sorry, because it's like, kind of synonymous. Aren't lambs sheep and like a male?
I think yeah, one is male, one is female.
Fuck if I know. She would know. So she raised this thing for the slaughter. You know what I mean? But she raised it herself. She got like 4th place in it. And so we're raised to be very ethical with the way we treat our livestock. And so and we're lucky enough to see it directly. We have the livestock show coming up next week where all these animals have been personally raised by individual children and family members. and they love these fucking animals. But then they also realize that it's an industry. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, keep going. I have a question, though, when you're done, because I want to ask you a question about that specifically. Keep going, though.
Sure. Well, I mean, that's pretty much it. Like we get to see a much more respectful raising of these animals, and we realize that it's in our location, it's our way of life, essentially. It's a business. It is what it is, but it's
Right.
also it's also a prideful thing to say that this, it's like woodworking or leatherworking, any kind of traditional thing like that. There's a sense of pride in it.
Take away anything people want to talk about right now. The Native Americans had the most respectful look, in my opinion, on hunting.
Animals.
And I very much would like to see us get back to that, but I don't think that's truly going to actually happen, but something like that.
Native Americans believed in the ideology of animus, where every animal has an individual spirit.
Yep. Yeah,
and
they pray for it after.
Their power, their essence is released into the people that consume it and into the environment that it is returned into. And that's basically the way we see, at least me personally, the way my grandfather taught me to respect the animal after a kill when I was a kid. I've never personally hunted a deer, but I have family members that hunt one every year, and I've got, a few deer legs that I've been working my way through the last few weeks. But again, that's privately shot, is
exactly, and it lived its life naturally. Like, the only question I have about, so you guys raise the animals, but do you know what happens when you sell them to slaughter farms or whoever's going to actually use them for the produce? Because
I mean, we also have family from Mexico that does the slaughtering. Like I've had family.
okay.
I mean, we'll go get the goats ourselves for the barbecue and do it ourselves if we can.
So you can, but not all places do. And
But
I'll tell you, only because I went to Amish country like last summer, and these animals were like the happiest things ever.
that's
And
cool.
they were, but I asked the girl at the front, I go, do you know what happens to them after you sell them? And she goes, oh no, we don't keep track of that.
Well, now keep in mind we're Texas. We raise them here and we eat them here, so they're going to somebody's cousin. Like everybody knows that nobody's trying to screw each other over. Like what I'd be concerned with is like what you're saying, when they get sent off to these factories that are just buying a dozen cattle at a time, and they're going off to Chili's or something and being all the meat is being processed with other things and But for the most part, people buy Texas meat because it's top quality. They're not buying it to, unless it's the chuck. But even that, like they sell skirt steak here in the local stores, and I hear as close by from here as San Antonio, just 4 or 5 hours away, you can't find the fajita meat, the kind of meats that would be considered low quality other places.
Mm-hmm.
We love them here. We eat the tripe, we eat the stomach, we eat the tongue. We do it's called barbacoa, made out of the tongue, out of the brain.
Wait,
we eat
made out of the tongue and the brain.
It's made differently a lot of places. Here, that's typically what we use.
Yeah, one household will do it with make it out of the tongue, another one out of the brain. It just depends on who's making it.
I love them all. I love them all.
Okay, you guys are from China. I see you. I'm joking.
Basically, I was online last night gaming with some buddies, and there it's just 3 white guys and me, the little brown boy in the channel, and I'm talking about, oh man, I've got this menudo right now. It's so delicious, which is sheep stomach or cow stomach or pig stomach, whatever. It's stomach with pozole. What's pozole?
They're like
kernels.
Yeah, like
they're like white corn kernels.
It's like garbanzo beans, but it's maize.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
doesn't matter. Hominy.
I've
heard that.
It's called hominy,
but I've heard of it. Okay.
Okay, don't listen to me, I'm stupid.
and it's in this red chili pepper sauce. Anyway, it's amazing. It's delicious, but he's from here, and he looked at me like that's disgusting.
Because it is. You put it in your mouth, and then it's all fucking wobbly and slimy, and you're like,
it's like meat jello.
All I know is that I used to hate spicy food, and then when I moved to first I moved to LA and then I moved here. But either way, there's Mexican food literally everywhere. And I went home for the summer and everything was tasteless. I went to my parents' house in Ohio, and I was like, I swear everything I get is mild. Why can I, like, I'm used to spicy because mild out here isn't mild. I don't
Yeah,
know.
Arizona. Yeah, you're in Arizona now. You're getting the real spice.
So
That
we
it's the
don't have
heat,
a lot
man.
in common than I think Texas, Arizona. We actually have a lot in common, even though you guys are more spread out because you're such a big freaking state. But comes to like
Woo.
freedoms and stuff. Yeah, you guys, oh my God. I don't think so. When I came, you guys followed me after I got home. So I've been in Arizona. This has been my apartment for 5 years because I lived here since 2015.
Yeah.
So I've lived here forever, but I went to my parents, like I said, for the medical stuff. And oh shit, wait, no, 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 no,
Uh.
I lost
Uh
it.
huh.
Shit.
Uh huh.
What happened?
Okay.
Oh, yes, what it was I drove back. We were talking
I
about
thought you lost your contact or something. Like, why are her eyes rolling to the back of her? What is
no.
wrong with?
So this is my memory, okay, and it's partially just me being blonde. But there's when my blood pressure drops, and I don't feel sick right now, but like my memory will start to just shit out. So like people don't understand. I'll literally stop. I'll either continue talking in circles until I remember it, so people don't
That's
know.
what I do.
Thank you. That makes me feel so much better.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah, but there's nothing wrong with him.
okay, maybe there is. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
Okay, you're sweet. You're much nicer than I am.
I mean,
So,
here's the thing. Yeah. So I
so your
drove through
blood
all
pressure
of
drops and it affects your memory, your complete cognitive
it's
abilities, kind of.
yes, it's a lack of oxygenated blood flow to your whole body. So like if I don't get enough oxygen to my brain, like yeah, my IQ fucking drops. It sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it's like imagine for those of you who don't understand, because I'm a distance runner nowadays. Well, I haven't run for a little while, but I'm gonna get back into it. I'm dressed for it anyway. Um,
Shit, get out there, do it.
point
Ready to
being that
go.
yeah, well, I finished a marathon last month and I've been taking it easy.
Oh, okay.
But my point was when for those of you who need a bit of a way to understand this, if you've ever been really dehydrated, um, your brain is the last thing to rehydrate itself. You can pound water back and your body starts feeling fine, but you're still in that fog for a good while. If
Yes.
you've been hydrating that entire run, you're going to feel fine. I felt fine during the marathon because I pounded back the water the entire time, my salt tablets and all that. But if you don't do that, which I've done before on as small as an 8 mile run, much less 26 miles, I've come back overly dehydrated because I took one less water bottle than I should have. And for almost a 24-hour period, you're in a fog.
Yeah,
So
or you get
I
a really bad headache. It's kind of sometimes one or the other. And that's crazy you're mentioning that. You're like the first person who's put it into that kind of a perspective. I guess I don't know that many runners, but what you're describing makes so much sense because you're running, you're losing fluids. Well, people with what I have don't really lose fluids. Some of us don't sweat at all. I sweat from my stomach, so that's why I wear a lot of crop tops. Um, but my girlfriend who has it, she doesn't sweat
I'm
at all.
Spanish. I sweat from everywhere. I am
Normal
so
people sweat from normal places. I don't sweat from my armpits though. I sweat, well, I do a little bit, but my girlfriend, she literally doesn't sweat, which is actually, as I'm sure you're aware, very dangerous. But
yes.
the point is, so I don't have to worry about that because I do sweat just strange places. But
Please tell us more.
we don't, just my stomach, just my stomach.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Shoulders. Your,
yeah,
the
yeah, my nose.
earlobes. Your earlobe
Yeah,
starts dripping.
yep. Oh, totally. Yeah, my eyelashes on occasion.
That is odd. Okay. I'll give it to you. Those are odd places.
Well, you're talking about losing fluids, and a lot of people with what I have we don't retain fluids well, even though we don't sweat. So our body, we have to pee a lot, which is
Hmm.
super because we have to drink so much to maintain our blood pressure, which is what you're literally just describing right now. Because of the fact that you were running, you'd be losing all those fluids. Well, we're not losing fluids from running, but we can't keep them in our body. So I take a steroid to help retain sodium. And when I was first diagnosed, when I was a teenager, I was told to just eat a lot of salty shit. And that worked forever
Wow.
until like 2014 when I started just it's climate really, and it's not the only place I really don't have issues is California because it's the most consistent climate. So,
It's
I mean,
it's not a wet heat out there. It's not very humid.
no, the humidity is perfectly balanced. I feel like the altitude, especially by the coast, like Orange County and LA. Um,
Sea
I
level's awesome.
Yes, I think that's part of it. And I talked actually. I didn't know how much we were going to talk about this, but I did bring some of the documents my new specialist in Ohio was giving me.
Yeah, we totally mean to get it with the vegan stuff, and the diet stuff is supposed to be for the second half of this, but I guess it just flows the way it flows sometimes.
No, I mean, we don't have to talk about it now, but I do have it because I did.
No, we're already on a roll. Don't slow down. Just interjecting.
I gave her a bunch of theories, right? So like I had a specialist out here that my insurance covered. This is how I went from left to right, by the way, because I really thought Bernie Sanders made sense the first cycle. But,
well, I mean, and that's not to say he doesn't make sense. It's just whether or not it's feasible. A lot of what he says is it's just you got to think about the actual implementation of these policies that you want to enact. And if you don't have the support of Congress behind you, if you don't have support of the Senate to help you, what are you doing? You're just a man with a bullhorn outside of fucking church, you know?
I don't even know if it's necessarily my issue with how Congress or the House would treat him.
It's synagogue, he's like, Jewish, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. Huh? Wait, what'd you say?
He's a man with a bullhorn outside a church, and then I realized, oh, he's Jewish. It would be a synagogue.
All right. You guys probably know more about religion than I do, so I try to stay out of those topics.
I do. I'm kind of
I know nothing.
I'm just so a fan. I love religion. I
love the idea of religion.
No, I love religion. I think there's a lot of benefits to religion. Now, the same thing as government, same thing as Bernie Sanders. There's a lot of good fucking ideas there. The implementation is the fucking problem. That's the problem with a lot of these religions.
This is the thing. When I went to Houston to do some interviews, so I'm going to give another couple of shout outs because these are the people I've kind of learned from just by watching.
Yeah.
Jorge Ventura, I think that's his Instagram handle. I don't know. Basically, Folklore Americana, do you know who that is? He shot for Laura Loomer and kind of does
I don't.
video for that.
Yeah, for politics, ask him. For diet and religion, ask me.
Oh, perfect. Now I know. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so I went to work with one of the guys that works with Folklore, Just Mediocre 93. He's got some really good content, by the way, if you guys want to check him out. But I went with him to Houston, and we did some interviews together, which was a lot easier for me to do because there was two of us, and if I didn't feel well, I kind of switched the camera and had him do the interview. You know, I was recording whatever. So that's why it's kind of harder for me to do that stuff by myself. But we went, and Jorge Ventura was talking about the SB 276 was the vaccination bill that Cali introduced, where they were trying to say doctors were not allowed to exclude patients from vaccines. Did you hear about that?
No, why would they exclude patients from vaccines if they were choosing to get them?
For medical reasons. And basically, I mean, the bottom line isn't that I'm anti-vax. I'm not anti-vax.
Okay, so was it the case where the doctor was anti-vax and just didn't want to administer vaccines at all, or was there certain stipulations with those particular patients?
I will have to double check.
It was the whole anti-vax thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, but there's anti-vaxxers for different reasons.
Yeah,
like
it wasn't that we don't believe in vaccines, and I'll tell you, like, I mean, in school we studied vaccines, so like I'm familiar with what goes in them. I'm not super comfortable with it, but they
real quick, what did you study?
Well, I was going for equine veterinary, but I got my degree in vet tech, and then when I started getting like too sick, I mean, I got treated like complete crap in school, which was funny because it was medical school and I had a diagnosis, but I had like all of my peers like pretty much just completely. I was treated pretty shitty towards the end, and I had some friends that were like still my friends, but if you know me, you know that like you don't me like don't just be a fucking retard or I will fuck you up. Like, just don't come at me, like, just leave me alone, you know, like, let me live. That's me. And if I get cornered, I'm usually not who you want to corner. But
you feisty.
I can be. I'm not normally, though. And, like,
that's okay. Anybody who has to say that is definitely more feisty than they let on. Let's not kid ourselves.
I have it in me. Oh, absolutely.
I try and tell people I'm not really an asshole. I just like to joke around a lot. Like, well, the people that usually say that to me, I kind of think are assholes. So I think I might just be an asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Well, everyone's an asshole.
I don't think everybody is like, you know, I don't know. I don't think everyone deserves to. There's my first and foremost thing is treat others how you want to be treated. So if I see someone treating me in a way that I would never treat someone else. I'll try to ignore it. I'll try to walk away. I'll try to remove myself from the situation. But in the school situation,
I can't do that. I have to call you out.
well,
Because I'm such a humanist. Like if I see you being, nah, not for me. Even if I put myself in weird positions to argue with people, like like my, okay, not gonna get into family shit, but other
oh God.
people. There are certain people in my life where I disagree with, and the whole room's like, dude, just let it go. You're not going to win. It's not a conversation worth having. Like, no, fuckers. Every conversation is worth having if you disagree. Get to the end of the conversation. Don't stop at, I disagree. Like, well, why do you disagree?
Why? Thank
Like,
you.
fine. I think you're an asshole, but this is why I think you're an asshole. Like, that's fine. Do you still think I'm an asshole? Yes, but do you understand why you think I'm an asshole? Good, as long as you understand why you think I'm an asshole. Don't just say I'm an asshole and then not be able to tell me why.
Wasn't it your last podcast that I was commenting that I sent you that DM for?
Yes.
So that was like very impressive. I agree with you on like your method for all of that stuff. Completely.
For the listeners, that's the episode with Jerry. What did we title that? I know in the description it was like, are trannies degenerates?
No,
I think
it's
it was
Jerry's back hating on trans.
He totally was though. And I love the guy personally. He's a good guy. And I told my wife this because she's like, "How can you be friends with someone like?" Because he is a friend. I consider him a friend. He's an idiot, but there's a lot of idiots in the world that are still my friends. Like
Well,
they're
I think
idiots.
there was a communication issue too, because I think like to be honest, I kind of felt like I got what he was saying from the beginning, but
Oh, that's what I'm saying. But that was the whole point. I understood his point of view. I just disagreed with it.
yeah, and you wanted to talk about it more. Yeah, and I thought that was really cool because like after a certain point, it sounded like he kind of just was like, I just don't care. You're like, no, let's talk about this.
Fuck yeah, man! I forced him. I forced him to fuck. I pulled it out of him. It was a little. It was fun.
No,
He's
okay,
really,
and I'm with you on that. But how about this? You were doing it for a podcast. You were doing it to kind of make a point. When you're talking to people that you know it doesn't. Me, I'm not an energy waster. I don't have energy to waste. So I literally don't. So if I have a person, and this has been like probably the majority of my adult life, I kind of just don't acknowledge things unless I have to with stuff like that. And like, I guess what you're saying, I can get in that mode if I feel like it's worth it. But if people just don't care, like, why the fuck do I care? You know, after a certain point. So
Yeah.
I'll try to talk to people.
I gotta make people care. I gotta make you care.
I
Just
mean,
show me that you can care.
literally though, and I mean, the bottom line though is that some people just like, with me and like my ways of kind of, hold on a second, sorry, my phone's dying.
I was wondering, like, I'm getting a little motion sickness here. Oh.
Sorry, yeah.
Oh, I'm just playing.
I'm not sure it's charging. I'm back. Okay, we're good. Sorry. Wait, where'd you go?
You're gone.
The
No,
thing.
how are you? I found you.
It says we're still recording. We just lost a picture. There you go.
Yeah.
You're back.
Sorry. Yeah, I didn't
Ah,
make sure it was charging, so it didn't just die in the middle of this. But okay, we're good. Shoot, where were we?
Well, you were there. We're here.
You were charging your phone.
And you were charging your phone.
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, we were talking about your podcast.
Oh, no
talking
one wants
to
to talk about
people
that.
And trying to get them to understand things. I just, with my page, I know I saw one of your potential questions for me was, what do I hope people take out of this? It kind of goes with this conversation where it's like, not everyone's
Oh, yeah, we had questions.
We're kind of going over some of them already, but
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the point of the questions are really more of an outline for the
Sure.
direction kind of want to flow into and what we can get into, but really it's again, these conversations are all, it's more important to
be organic.
to have a conversation.
Exactly. Yep. No,
It's
I
not
totally
an
agree with
interview.
that.
These are conversations.
No, I agree with that, and that's why I like when I'm seeing more people that are kind of like that this cycle that I don't think they were like comfortable enough to come out and try because people were so crazy.
Mhm.
And so like I'm just seeing like I think one of your questions was about libertarian infiltration.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
get into the politics. We can. I think we can.
She's got 15 minutes left to talk about veganism.
Oh, we need to do an exact hour for
Well, I
veganism,
mean,
and
if
Dude,
then
you
we can
I
want.
don't
switch.
even care, and we can do an extra 15 minutes because, like I said, like my car place is right around the corner from my house.
I mean, look, no matter how many questions we ask, there's still going to be more to talk about. So we can always
True.
have you on another day. Let's go ahead and move on from the medical stuff and the veganism. I definitely want to have you back on though to talk more about that. Do a specific episode about it.
Awesome.
But this is about all the information we can get about you, not just one thing or the
Right?
other.
No. Oh, so
You
I
are
was
the
talking about
vegan
Texas.
patriot.
Yes.
So yeah, let's get into the
So
patriot of
the
you.
SB 276. Back to that because we did, I guess, kind of start to get into how I got into politics. Long
Yeah,
story short, folklore and
well, you just
okay.
did it again.
Because he has an
Well,
alias too, and I don't want to like put it on blast. And I accidentally said it on the first podcast I was on. I'm like, take that out. Okay.
yeah, we'll bleep
Um,
it out. Don't worry.
okay, perfect. So, well, folklore you can talk about, but I said just Mediocre's real name on accident. So, basically, SF. Do you guys know San Francisco Thought Criminal at all? Have you seen his account floating around, little orange?
Nope.
Okay.
No. If he hasn't shown me, I
Have
haven't
you
seen it.
at
No.
all? Okay. I'm kind of surprised. But either way, long story short, like I said, I was noticing there was a lot of stuff that was kind of like, it just didn't make sense. Things were getting censored. And then, like, pretty much veganism and conservative, thinking points were getting censored. So then SF started following me and he was talking about free speech. And so I was like, look, SF, look, vegans are getting censored too. Like, there's a reason for this. So we were talking, and then I got sent to Texas, and then the biggest thing for me was that I had such crappy health insurance here. And again, it's all literally related to an extent to my medical issues. But
hmm
when I realized my teeth fell out because I had wisdom
Whoa.
teeth, but I didn't have preventative medication. I didn't have dental. So I was put in the hospital 4 times, which probably cost over $2,000 or $3,000 total.
Oh, for your teeth?
Well, they didn't tell me it was my teeth because it was the hospital, but that's all I had coverage for.
Oh,
So,
assholes.
well, it's more like that's very common. So, but people
Good.
that don't,
They just didn't know.
no, they're not going to know. That's not the point of a hospital. Everybody
Right.
knows that, right? So why would my health insurance really only cover urgent care? And then they had their own. So in network with state coverage, like I pay out of pocket for my primary care specialist here. But before we get up on into another medical tangent, the point is, I should have had preventative med that would have cost a fraction of what the hospital bills cost for no answers. I lived with excruciating pain from age, like right after I graduated. Actually, I was on my externship and I was in the clinic and my mouth just like locked up and I couldn't drink for 2 days. And it turns
Shit.
out like my wisdom teeth were literally, my mouth's really small. So my wisdom teeth were just slowly creeping up, trying to make room in my mouth for like 3 or 4 years.
Right. And that's common. Were they at an angle to like impacted where they
Yes.
were
Yeah.
that's the problem with the smaller jaw. My sister
Yes.
had the same issue and I had such a bad tooth and I couldn't afford dental. It ended up kind of just chipping away and eventually I just took a pair of pliers and ripped the shit out in like 3 sections. And then there was still the nerve part still in there, so I still ended up having to go spend like $380 to get it removed. And then, of course, it happened to the other side a year later, so I did the same thing. I tried to pull it out myself. I'm kind of a
Again,
sucker for a certain type of pain. I kind of like that pain.
I was just gonna say no lessons learned like at all. Okay. I mean,
Yeah,
I've
well, I
pierced
never
my
got
own face.
infected.
I don't
I
think I
don't.
would rip out my own tooth though.
Okay, now keep in mind, I have a grandmother from Spain, right? She had this like black growth on her face, which everybody would say go get it checked out is probably a malignant thing, you know?
Melanoma or something, yeah.
She refuses to go to the doctor, so she takes a needle, burns it, gets it sterile, and just pokes around. It basically makes a dotted line around this little black growth on her face and just peels it off, covers it with a Band-Aid and some Neosporin. I swear to God, you will never tell that anything was ever on her face. It is the weirdest thing. She did her own little home surgery. Like, what would they do? Send me to a specialist to get it cut off and then get a biopsy to tell me that it's cancerous or not cancerous? Then I'm going to have to be on medication. I'm in my 70s. I don't care. Like, if something's going to
If
get
you're
me,
in
it's
your
going to get
70s, fuck it. But like, I mean, the thing is, yeah, I don't know. The medical world, it's a weird one because I don't think the doctors are the problem, but everybody straight wants to go to the doctors. I think the doctors have a resentment towards not getting paid by a lot of these insurance companies. Pharma.
Well, and I think everything is too spread out too. The offices for the nose, ear, and eye specialist is, in the next city over from here,
Right.
and then the
Unless you're in a
hospital is
program.
over here that's going to
Yeah.
send you there, and then if that ends up not being wrong with you and ends up being something that's in your stomach, then you got to go to the specialist over in the next town over. Like I know in England, you go to the hospital and those specialty physicians are within the hospital.
Yeah.
They send the doctor into you. They don't know what a ear, nose, throat specialist is. They're like, no, it's just the doctor coming in to see you about your ear, nose, and throat. He just happens to be the one that knows about it.
You guys have a program for POTS in Texas. I don't remember which city though, but there's a couple of them. So the Cleveland Clinic and the Mayo Clinic actually do exactly what you're talking about, but they're not. Definitely Mayo is not covered by my insurance, and they would have cost 10 grand out of pocket. But the Cleveland Clinic, which my specialist, she works with the Cleveland Clinic. She's from Toledo though. She's from the University of Toledo. So because it would have taken me a year to get into a specialist that was in the network that I needed to be in. So I got his she works with one of the doctors that works at the Cleveland Clinic. But the Cleveland Clinic and Mayo Clinic, what they do is they'll consolidate a lot of all those specialists together into one like facility. And that's kind of why
Right.
people want to go to them, because like literally like driving around. Oh, so I got bit by a cat at work. I was medicating it. And long story short,
Been
my
there.
arm, did you have to like go to the hospital and get surgery? Because I knew better and I still fucking didn't fuck with myself. I let my arm blow up, okay? And it was on my pinky. So this cat, like, it got scared and it like fang went directly into my knuckle, and you probably can't tell that much, but my knuckle's kind of swollen because the infection with the fang, it like got stuck in my knuckle, and so the bone itself was infected, and then I had
You know what? This is a really important part. Let me interject real quick. This is a really important difference between your location and our location. We're 5 minutes away from the border of Mexico. And so we have cousins, aunts, uncles. They'll go and pick up penicillin and amoxicillin for us. So where you would have to go to a doctor and get it prescribed and, go to a pharmacy to pick it up, my grandma has it in her cupboard just as a regular stockpile. So when I get an
feel about safety though, like, I mean,
I've done a lot of drugs, so I'm not too concerned about the healthy-ish poisons that might end up in my body, as long as I'm not I never overdo any sort of medication. Like, I take it as long as I need it, and then I stop. But
aren't there standards different in Mexico for like production? I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that's what I've heard. I need to do more research on it though.
yeah, me too. I mean, but we're from an area where if you do have dental issues and it's going to cost you $350 to get it pulled, you go right over the border in Mexico and get it pulled for $80.
Well, I had a classmate of mine that was actually, she was VA, and so I bring this in a lot. Chronic illness and veteran stuff have a lot of stuff in common, in my opinion, when it comes to like bureaucratic, like way down and incentivizations for keeping people in one place instead of actually allowing them to grow and get out of those places.
How so? What do you mean?
So I think
Get
that
out of
some
what
programs.
places?
Well, I think some programs are really meant, you have to make a certain amount of money. I think there's a lot of problems that really were supposedly intended to help people move on, but they can't, because if they do, they get cut off. And then, you know what I'm saying? Like, so.
Well, that's where I'm at personally right now. My son had Medicaid up until this year because my wife started working this year, so we're above that income level. So that's fine. I'm proud of that. I don't need the government tit in my mouth anymore. But insurance for him alone is costing me $160 to $180 a month, and that's basically half of what my wife is bringing home a month because she's just a healthcare provider. Yeah, so really we're in a worse position now that we're making more money than we were
Yeah,
before we were making more money, which
exactly.
shouldn't be the case.
No,
It
no,
shouldn't be the case.
no.
If you
And
can pay anything into the system, you should have a better budget to put into that system. Why would they fucking try and gouge you out to where you can't pay anything at all and you just don't have health insurance and now you've got to worry about ER. Oh, that's why. Because now you got to pay full price when you fucking take your kid to the doctor. Now you got to pay out of pocket, and they don't have to help you at all. It's
well,
crazy.
it is, and I think there's so much more to it than one or two specific things. But I will tell you, like when I went to Texas to do the interviews with Just Mediocre, basically the SB 276 really mattered to me when I saw Jorge posting about it because um, basically like it just people really are not aware, and it was like crazy to me because I was just like, wait a second. Like, so the thing with SB 276 that I don't think I finished was basically, or we were confused about, pretty much what it was specifically was that I think so the government is basically saying we're coming in and making decisions. We're not acknowledging that your doctors, your everyday doctors who know you, not to mention, I looked this up, there are no studies of vaccine fraud, exemption fraud in California. So California government,
Oh.
what their excuse was that the government was worried about like fake exemptions. When doctors exempt someone from a vaccine, there's a reason for it. There's a reason, and religious stuff I'm not going to get into because I'm gray on that area. Like I don't even debate that stuff because I don't know enough. But I will say it's very strange that the government would want to come in and tell a bunch of sick people who have been seeing their doctors regularly, who have established relationships with these doctors, who have medical degrees the government does not.
Yeah.
Why are they coming in and telling us that, like,
Your doctor is wrong. Take this medicine.
yes, mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, I was getting it in reverse what I thought the bill was earlier. So just to clarify, so it's
No, that's
about
why I wanted to clarify because
yeah.
it's kind of a tricky one if you don't really break it down, but it's not
Yeah,
that
because it's
tricky.
the wording on. I mean, you can read
Yeah.
those documents, and if you misread, like we misspelled your name to get you on Skype today, you
Yeah.
flip one letter around. Well, you flip one word out of place in these documents, or you perceive it in a different order.
Well, even
Just
reading, like I get
yeah,
overwhelmed by reading. I've started doing audiobooks because I can't part of my I noticed I was having a really hard time. Like I'm not dyslexic and I used to read so much as a child. Like I'm a nerd. I would literally be holed up. My grandma's a school teacher. I would be holed up in her classroom early in the morning before class and I would just be reading Harry Potter or something like over and over again. But when I started getting really sick and I was like in my mid 20s and I was, going to school and I was working and I just had so much going on. I had a lot of trauma too, but we're not going to talk about that. But because it's really it's not irrelevant entirely, but that's for the self-defense stuff. But
oh, okay. We'll hit that one up next time we have you on. All right.
yeah, that one's definitely not the main focus point for me right now at all. But it does. I guess it does have a little bit of a point. But yeah, I don't know. Crap, I forgot what we were just talking
So
about.
I kind of spaced too. I was following Frank, help us
But
out here.
no, I was totally spaced out the whole time.
What is
Oh
happening
my
on the podcast? Frank,
Okay, I
no,
feel a little bit
like that.
better, and
This is
also
supposed to
feel
be a section to start kind of bringing yourself in, and
Yeah, yeah,
falling
but I
apart over
was
here.
fucking over
no. It
there.
is not everybody's responsibility to remind me of things. It helps. I wish I remembered, but
You do listen to the podcast, right? It's not
yes.
you. This is a
No,
common
no, no,
occurrence.
no, no. I feel better too because it's like my attention span's like naturally like your guys's anyway, so it doesn't help me.
It's just we're talking about a lot of things. We're jumping around a lot. It's
Yeah,
hard to keep things
yeah. There's
in.
a lot. There's a ton of information.
We've been going for an hour, so don't feel like it's not like it's 5 minutes of conversation we just forgot.
No, no, literally,
Last
seriously, I'm the one who's always embarrassed because I'm like, I'll get into something that's like super informative or I'm passionate about it, and I'm like, I don't know what we were just talking about. Sorry, I got too excited.
yeah, why were we talking about that again? So this bill. So you found out about this bill.
Yeah.
That's
Um.
right. That's where we were at. We explained the bill.
Yeah.
So
So.
that brought you
So.
to.
Yes, and then I will say when I went to Texas and I asked some questions about it, and I have the video up on my regular YouTube, but I'm switching it over to Vegan Patriot. So I do have a Vegan Patriot YouTube, but I need to upload all these videos. But the one I got, this was one of the most important ones to me. I was just asking her, oh yeah, so border control. I was all for open borders for like even post-Trump election, really. I wasn't for open.
I mean, I'm for open borders as far as like egalitarianism. Like there should be no borders, but implementation.
Well, and the other thing, like I know we've all mentioned 1,000 times, and I think anybody who actually has paid taxes can understand. My thing was, why? If my teeth fell out and I don't have preventative med for dental, and I put taxpayer money into the system for a decade, because I worked since I was like 18, I think even 17 actually. I got fired after passing out and getting sick last winter, after being at that job for years, by the way.
I didn't know they could fire you for medical conditions.
They can't, but it's a right to work state, so they just said it wasn't working out. But it was after I had an episode. So
we have the right to fire you for any reason at any time.
Mm-hmm. And we won't tell you why. And
I've heard the same shit at work.
I mean, I've actually never in my life been fired. I don't think, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Me neither. I almost got fired and I quit before they could give me a third write-up. I was like, dude, they wrote me up for like something other people were doing, but it fell on my shoulders in the end. I was like, well, fuck you guys. I'm out.
Well, I think with me, I think like I've always kept my jobs for forever if I have them. So I don't know. Maybe I just had an established relationship with the people I worked with, but I hate people. So I don't know how I kept my jobs that long.
Yeah, the last two jobs I've had, I was a vet tech at the local animal hospital, and I was basically the dog. Yeah, I was basically just a dog walker, a cat, bathing. But I was the guy. I came in at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning to start doing all that, and I was the last one to leave. But I was basically with the animals by myself all day, just constantly moving with an animal. I never had really,
right?
Yeah, if I had to deal with, it was when I had to deal with the coworkers where things got shady, because everybody's got their own drama and they try and put it on you.
You're a guy too, so I'm sure, and I know.
I am?
I don't know, maybe you swapped with your wife like in the middle of this conversation.
You don't see the ponytail? I'm working on it.
Okay, you could be transforming. That's up to you, though. That's
I told Jerry that. I texted Jerry that yesterday, like, hey, so I'm transitioning. I want to know how you feel about it. He's like, shut up, dude.
Beautiful.
I want to be pretty.
Well, crap. Now what was I saying? Sorry. I'm sorry, guys.
That was my fault.
No. And normally, if my brain's not fried, I can continue the conversation. But once we've been talking for over an hour, it'll happen more frequently. Sorry.
I'll tell you what. Do you want to take a 5-minute break, get some water? We can pause real quick.
No, I have a water. We're good. I'm just gonna try to not. If you're talking, I'm gonna try to not get in the middle, and it doesn't even matter. Let's just keep talking and see if we can remember what we're saying. Because that's really.
This is going in the description, right? We have a real hard time keeping track of ourselves, but we get through it. Yep. No, this is a lot of fun. This is whether we lose track or not. As long as we're still having fun doing it, we're not going to keep.
If anybody's interested to talk, and like when I finally started the Vegan Patriot account, like I had all these like tactical vegan and like all these vegans that are actually like, oh, it was the border thing. Yeah, I think what the point is the patriot thing. There's a lot of people that are patriots in this country that are woke, and you don't have to necessarily be an extreme of any ideation on the right to just, be a patriot.
Or left. Or middle. Yeah, correct.
Center. I guess it's center.
People hearing I'm a atheist or I question theology or whatever.
I'm agnostic, yeah. I'm agnostic.
I can't claim agnosticism. I don't know what the fuck I am. I believe in things. I don't believe in other things.
You're the religion guy. You would know more than I.
I mean, you look at me. I got a beard. I look like a yoga instructor. Like, just most people would assume that I'm left-leaning or democratic or this way or that. I'm not. I don't.
And I have my piercings, right? And so, like, that's why I think I never wear Trump stuff to rallies.
You're a vegan, typically.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what the thing was.
You're supposed to be a lefty. We're supposed to align with that. Oh, you're a runner. You're healthy. You eat healthy. Oh, you must be.
Well, that's kind of part of what's got me so excited is I realized that so many people that like used to be really anti-vegan. Okay, like I will tell you, like the majority of the people I talk to, they're anti-vegan, but they'll talk to me because I don't push, or they'll say, "Oh, we agree with you about the nutritional thing," you know? And so like that's what's been so fascinating, because it's kind of like if you point out how it actually affects people in various ways, like they kind of can find something to relate to.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a ton of people that don't have exactly one ideology, but they're similar, and people have been excluding them, you
Well,
know.
that's because they're not conversing. They're not having one-on-one discussion. So where you're trying to tell people, if you just put up a video explaining your condition, saying I get up too fat or then the blood drops, people can't think about, well, what the fuck is wrong with you, right?
Yeah.
But because I'm a runner and I'm able to
Yes.
put that in my own perspective, like you said, you had never heard that comparison before.
Mhm.
So that little bit more information that you get from me and that I get from you, we can communicate it to others better.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the more people that like you guys like literally just having a conversation, it's the start end of anything, really.
Yeah,
And
honestly, I think YouTube single cam conversation, like where you're just talking to a camera, all these like informative videos where they're trying to teach you something and they're not actually communicating with another person about what they're trying to
mhm.
teach. You end up having you're basically in a classroom where you're being indoctrinated into believing what they're believing because you're not allowed to question it. You have to take it and you believe the parts you want to believe. You don't believe the parts you don't want to believe, but you never question it and get questioned to figure out what the actual facts are and what you should believe.
Totally.
Just
No, it is an indoctrination is absolutely the word. And our age group got hit so hard with that, I think. Like
Oh yeah, but it's
beyond.
our own fault. It's because of this social media stuff. But what I love about this podcasting thing, I'm not thinking that this is going to become anything for financial gain. I'm
Mhm.
starting to morph my idea into what this podcast is what it is a new form of social media.
Yes.
It's not to make money on. It's not a business venture. I mean, yes, it can be just like Instagram and Facebook. Or I guess not Facebook, but there are social medias where you can make money off it, and this is one or an option to be one. But I think the primary focus or the primary function that it's holding right now in our environment, in our society, is that it's allowing people to feel more comfortable taking an hour out of the week, 2 hours out of the week to talk to somebody they've never talked to before and have an extended conversation, which you would never do in your day-to-day or just on Instagram or just on this or that.
Or even
Is-
if you have similar views to the person you're talking to, I still think it's more helpful and you get more out of having two people talk and
Yes.
debate, regardless of if
Sometimes
they're,
three, but if they're just
yeah.
dead quiet over there, it's kind of hard to. Hey, Frank.
Hey.
How are you over there?
I'm okay.
I should have got the smaller couch over here.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree with that. And I feel like that's kind of where I was going to, but the situation with me, I'm not working right now because I'm trying to start a business with my neighbor to pretty much I have to reskill myself because what I have loans for, uh, when I got fired, actually, it was really funny because I was going to school for business and I was going to start taking some web classes because that was something I thought I could do, like, you know, from home if I needed to, and it could be on my terms. I wouldn't have to worry about getting fired.
Right.
Well, long story short, the boss at my job of like 3 years decided to push me in the middle of the day in 105 degrees, which is like, you know, May, June, July. They pretty much put me in the opposite of the hours of the day that they knew would work for me because we were short staffed. And I was getting so sick that I ended up getting hospitalized a couple of times during it. And so I had to withdraw my student loans, which I can appeal for now, but it's just all of this stuff is such a process. So basically my loans got taken away because I went under what they dispensed to me because I had to withdraw a class because in order to keep my job and also not, you know, get super sick. And I kind
Right.
of,
For those people who don't know about like financial aid and stuff like that, they only offer you these loans and things if you take a certain amount of hours
yes, yes, yeah,
and maintain a certain grade point average. If
yep.
either of those fall, and it doesn't fucking matter if you're working a full-time job,
Mm-hmm.
working 40, 50, 60 hours a week to pay for the living expenses of being there, not the courses, because that money that they give you barely covers your fucking courses, if at all. You
Like,
typically still have to pay some more shit on top of that, at the very least 1,000 or so for your textbooks for one class.
oh, and then you
It
have,
can get
yeah,
so crazy.
living expenses in general, exactly. I mean, even if you live with your parents, you're still in the campuses spending we'll get into that another day. But schools are their own thing that we can get into another day. I don't know where I was going with the thing, but basically, whatever we were talking about before, I was going to get into why.
Before you were so rudely interrupted by me.
No. I went on a tangent, and I'll do it.
That's what we do. This is
like,
a completely
no judgment. I'm the same.
intangible podcast.
I'm.
All right, look, this is what I'm going to do now, though, because I keep interrupting you, taking away your train of thought, and Frank doesn't talk at all, so maybe he can start asking you some of these political questions we want to get into.
All right, I like your plan.
And
I'll just let you guys ask me questions.
Yeah, we'll open up the interview. I know we said it wasn't going to be an interview, but these questions are pretty cool, and I liked some of the quotes you have written down.
And then with the natural flow conversation, you guys have been touching on some of these questions.
Good, so this all kind of flowed together.
Yeah, and so I was making mental notes. I'm like, okay, they kind of answered this one, they kind of answered that one.
He lies a lot.
No, I'm very honest.
Yeah, okay, 27.
23.
22.
See?
23.
I'm honest.
You are honest. Okay. All right, I'm going to push this away so I don't interrupt you, and we're actually going to hear Frank's voice for more than a sentence or two. So, Frank, kick us off with the interview portion of this podcast.
Okay.
So get a drink.
So then, anyways, no, but you were okay. There were two things you brought up that you were going to touch on, but then you didn't really get to finish on. One of them was my last question, actually. What you can hope people can take away from following you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So then, if you
basically what you guys are pretty much doing, honestly, I just want discussions, and I think like I used to like hack into the I had a different account name like forever. I've always had an alias on my personal account, but I had a different account name. I would just slide into things because I didn't know if people were real online, like because I didn't really like I got stuck in bed when I was working. I would get sick, I would come home, I didn't have a social life. So what I would do is I would get on my phone and I would see these things. I'm like, oh, that's ridiculous. I don't like those politics. You know how everybody used to like go into the like, it was kind of like Twitter, but I don't like Twitter. So I was on Instagram doing it, just like commenting on things like, why is everybody crazy? And like, I don't know if you guys have seen me type, but I can type novels. So yeah, I kind of, until I realized like, oh my God, why is everybody, like I was just getting so annoyed, but then I realized I was like, people online are intentionally just being crazy, right? So if I don't act like that with them, like, and just focus on ignoring it and just trying to have like a point, it developed for me over time for this all to be about chronic illness, really. And if I want to start a podcast, and I want it to be about nutrition and chronic illness and, you know, of course, politics, but I kind of just want dialogue on it. And like, people haven't really been interested in enough, but when you point out things...
They are. People that you're surrounding yourself with may not be interested in enough, but we started this podcast never expecting to hear from somebody from Ohio, from Arizona, from
from New England.
New England, we have Australia listeners.
We have Australian listeners.
Who the fuck thought? And these are consistent listeners. They're downloading every week from these particular locations, so we know that they're legitimately giving a shit.
Yeah, there's an audience out there. We just need to put ourselves out there more and expand our audience.
As far as anybody who says tries to give advice about putting out a podcast, it's all just about being consistent. So once you start, don't stop. I tell Frank almost every weekend. Like lately, we've had some guests fall through at the 0 hour right before we start recording. They don't show up. So yeah, didn't show up. Not we had trouble getting a hold of them. They just didn't show up. So we try and throw something together, but we still, and it gets disheartening. But then we put out the Jerry episode, not thinking we would get any response, and we've gotten, we've got a response from it, and it actually hit harder than I thought it would. So it just goes to show you, don't give up just because it's a little, you're not getting attention at the start. Just keep pushing.
I wasn't, no. And I will say, like, it's picked up to the point where I felt hopeful enough about it, but also I've cleared out a lot of my own medical drama. I still obviously have my condition, but back to the hormone thing, I took myself off my birth control and my condition was, like, so much better. So...
birth control is the weirdest fucking thing it is so bad for anybody I've ever heard that took it. I understand the benefits of it, of course. I'm not an asshole.
Right.
But what the fuck, dude? That shit ruins you.
It was prescribed for, like, I was, like, 12 when I was prescribed it. I was prescribed it for headaches before I ever was sexually active, before I ever was like ready to have a child. I was given birth control, and so many people, it's like a similar story. But they basically, long story short, this is why I have a problem with estrogen levels. It's pretty obvious that I had too high of an estrogen level on some level with the birth control, because there's been studies that, again, with the doctor I spoke with, she pretty much pointed it out. Like, yeah, there's studies that birth control is causing more issues with the condition, but they didn't want to admit it for like a while. So yeah, it's interesting. But I kind of just, I noticed, like, once I started to, like, if I can do this business with my neighbor, I can pretty much just kind of chill, make money, but I can work on stuff like a podcast, or I could put my content together, because right now I'm just running around doing so many things. I don't have the energy by the time I get home to really invest into like creativity. And so that's kind of the frustrating part for me. But I think that once I'm in a more settled, and it's progressively, I've been getting more settled, but I've gotten more support.
You know what though? It's not going to get better. It's not going to get more settled. Something always comes up. You want to start it. You want to start it. Start it. That's what we did.
Yeah, when we started, we said,
I asked him, I was like, look, we could plan on keeping doing it, but set a date to start and stick to it. And then set a day to record every week and stick to it. Treat it. It's a hobby. That's all it is, but it's an important hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, that's the only reason it matters, is I think it's a hobby, or it could be a business, but obviously it sounds like with us, we kind of just want to wake people up.
Yeah, well, what's it about, your biorhythms? What do you need to like be a fulfilled person? It's you need to supply your mental, your physical, and your intellectual, right? It's those three things. So you need to have the job, you need to have, you know, a sense of pride in what you're doing for money. You have to be able to use your physical, you know, body to release these endorphins and all these things inside your body that need to be released through physical exertion. And you need to do something that's like a hobby that's intended just for the spiritual release that it allows you. And that's what this podcast has become. It's basically it's a therapy session without having to get into the fucking therapy of it.
Yeah, therapy as well as because it's not like we're talking about therapeutic, like mental health, which obviously could be a topic, but no, it is. And I totally agree with you on that. And I try to not tell my mom too much about this, because she seems to think, I mean, I don't even have really energy to go out on dates because I've just been doing so much. So it's a little
you need a homebody. You need a guy that's going to help you with your podcast and stick around afterwards and watch some Netflix and chill. You know what I mean? So everybody's got a different lifestyle. Me and my wife never have gone out. We don't do shit. We go to lunch, dinner occasionally, but neither one of us was ever a person that liked to go to clubs. I think I've been to a club 2 or 3 times in my life.
Yeah.
Like, there are people which end up on the podcast community and the Instagram community. I think we're all kind of the same. Like, maybe it's this. Sorry?
MBTI. Do you guys know the Briggs-Myers test?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, the personality test. It's like all these, I think it's like 50, 100 questions, and then it tells
whether
you
you're an alpha, beta, or some
what
shit
your
like
personality
No.
Like INTJP is intuitive.
Oh, you're a type A personality, type personality.
There's 14 different kinds, right? Or there's.
Fuck if I know.
It goes deeper than that.
Okay, I'll have to look into that. I'm learning about my dad brought up biorhythms to me. My dad, the most like logistics person ever. He's like looking into biorhythms. Yeah, just put in your birth date and your name. It'll tell you your biorhythms. I was like, Dad, that's horoscopy. Horoscope? I don't know what the hell he's telling me about.
No.
He says there's some legit science behind it. He claims there's legit science behind it.
No, I don't know about horoscopes. People do that all the time. And
biorhythms. I was just comparing it to horoscopes. Look it up. It's one of those things that type
that in my DM me what it's called, and I'll Google it, because I won't remember it if we're just talking about it.
It tells you according to the time of year where your levels are going to be, like intellectually, your mood. Like it's a little odd. It's very hokey to me, but
I don't think it is. But I think it could be. Okay, so if that's what you're describing,
I need to look into it. I said it on the surface, it sounds hokey, but I haven't given it honest looking into. And I do believe like the position of the moon's gravitational pull on the seas can affect our biology a little bit. But I'm the type of person. I believe diet is everything. I believe your microbiome controls who you are. Our
Environment.
bodies are yeah. Well, our
Environment.
bodies are 90% bacteria or some shit like
Yep.
that. Like
Yeah.
we're not even human.
And
Yeah.
after all the antibiotics our generation was given, I think we have a lot of health problems from that too, because it caused so many problems and they were permanent because we never rebuilt our flora.
Well, not
Um,
just the antibiotics, but like the ibuprofens, the
yeah.
Tylenols, the
Don't get me into
acetaminophen.
NSAIDs. I can't take NSAIDs
No,
to take a
fucking hell
steroid,
no.
but yeah, no.
I don't take
We
them, they rot my stomach. Yeah, every time I take it, like, okay, fine, my body pains will go away, but then the next day, like, I'm nauseous, I'm lethargic, I feel like shit. Like everything affects you, man. Eat
Yeah,
healthy,
yeah.
eat healthy, eat variety, eat as much variety as you
Get
can.
out, get fresh air too. I think a lot of people really they're like, no, it's cool. I'm gonna go to like I think like if you're gonna stay in a gym, like I hate gyms. I hate being
I
inside.
I
But
can't do it. I can't do it. I do home. I work out at home. Well, I just the pheromones everywhere, people's testosterone being released. It's gross. Like it's aggressive. Like
I
you
feel like
feel aggressive there.
you're an I type. I'm guessing if you take the Briggs Myers test, you're gonna be an I type. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know what the fuck it is, so we'll see. I'll
Yeah.
call it. I'll let you know for sure.
Yeah,
We'll do
I
it.
do want to know. I'm
Done.
curious because the MBTI it's a little different. I have a theory on horoscopes because or and signs. Like, listen, think about this just real quick. I'm just gonna break this down real quick. Think
Okay.
about the fact. Okay, so I'm a Scorpio. I'm born on Halloween. I'm a Halloween baby, and I'm definitely a Scorpio in a lot of ways. But notice how the signs are kind of like more. They tend to be a little more dark, or they're a little more moody or mysterious, depending on the year, right? So, like the fall signs tend to be darker and more mysterious. Like a Scorpio is supposed to be super mysterious and confusing, which I kind of am, but I'm not mysterious. People just don't listen to me.
Mhm.
But I am confusing.
That
I
was
am
the greatest
confusing
statement
though.
I've ever heard. I'm not mysterious. People just don't listen to me.
I mean,
I love that.
I
I need
talk
that
a
for
lot,
sure.
so
Yeah,
um,
you're an open book. It's whether or not people are ready to read the pages.
That's what makes
literally.
you a great podcast guest.
That's why we're happy to have you on. Yeah,
Thank
I
you
mean
so much. Yeah,
this is a lot of
seriously.
fun.
No, like I said, just having people interested in all it's made me want to kind of actually just get more active. And then um the group with Kim, I really want to get some stuff started over here too for 2A stuff. But I'm really I have really bad social
Second
anxiety.
Amendment stuff for those of you not
Yeah,
familiar with the
sorry.
Constitution. No,
When
that's cool.
we
It
went
almost went over my head, and I thought about, oh, Second Amendment. Yeah, motivated gun girl.
you
Yeah,
know,
okay. Okay.
when I went to the impeach Trump rally, I'm sure you heard me talk about this on Pub's podcast. One of you guys listened to it. I don't remember who.
Me.
But okay, so I went and like, oh my God, half of these people, some of these videos are on my page. I still need to finish editing them and posting them because they were the best by far. Nobody knows anything, but they're screaming like how much they hate Trump. But then you ask
Yeah.
detailed questions and they can't answer them.
Because
And
he's an asshole. That's it. Because he
like,
talks like an asshole. My dad talks like an asshole. I still fucking love him. Like,
oh,
fine,
he
he's
said
your
grab him by the pussy. Okay, do you know how many guys that you
No,
probably
he
love?
didn't. No, he didn't. He said they let you grab them by the pussy. That is consent, dude.
I need to look
Yeah.
into it because I know that it was probably
It's
like
it's stupid. He
it's
shouldn't have said
stupid.
it.
Yeah.
It's a very stupid fucking. But he wasn't talking about raping a chick or grabbing her without
Yeah,
consent.
then he said it himself. He's like, it's locker
It
room
was
talk.
locker. I mean, we've like the ignorance level of people that are complaining about that piss me off because
Yeah. Yep.
there are assholes in the world. You don't fucking deny their effectiveness in whatever the fuck they're doing just because they're a fucking asshole. 95% of our bosses are assholes. You know what? They're still good enough to give me a fucking bonus at the end of the fucking holiday.
Solid point. Literally. Well, here's the thing, because my best friend is like super far left, but we both like she's not an idiot though. She's really smart. The difference though is that she trusts the government and I don't. I think that's the main difference we've come to this conclusion on. But yeah. I crap, I forgot what I was saying again.
I'm sorry. I know I was
Oh
moving
no,
doing weird
I
things.
was adding to your point and I thought of it while you were talking and I got really excited.
All
And
right,
then
so Trump.
Yeah, because your friend
oh
that.
yeah. So she was saying, yeah, this is what it was. So she was saying that she thinks anybody's pretty much complicit And again, she's super smart. There's nothing that I think she knows more than I do about, like, she's 26, so she's very much in the Reddit community. And she follows more of that stuff than I do. So she
The
does
running community?
Reddit, 4chan.
Oh,
She
Reddit.
stopped
I'm sorry.
today.
Yeah, that's why I got confused. Reddit. Got it.
Yeah, I stalk it sometimes on occasion, but more just for self-defense, so I know what's going on.
I can't stand those bulletin board type websites. What is it, 4chan? And like
Yeah,
Jerry keeps trying to get me on 4chan sites. It drives me batty. Like, dude, you have no idea how much of this is strictly opinion, how much of it
yeah.
is like false information that people are just grabbing onto, and he swears that everything he reads on there is genuine information. It's like, dude,
There's
come
no
on.
checking that. Yeah, I mean, it is mostly opinion. That's why I look at it, but it's scary
It's
because
it's just another form of news. It's just alternative news, and anywhere.
I think Jerry will have something to say about that conspiracy theory I told you about. How fucking Obama was actually gay and Pete Buttigieg
What?
is actually not gay.
What?
Yeah, because I tried looking for it. I'm like,
Why? Why?
no, because I brought it up right to Miss Patriot, and I'm like, well, let me help her research it, and I'm like,
yeah.
what?
Okay,
And I'm
what's
like,
your
it's
take
probably
on
one
that?
of them. Well,
Let's
it's
go off.
probably one of them
Let's
dark
forget
web
everything
things.
we've just talked about, and let's talk whether or not Obama is gay and Buttigieg is straight. What? Please, Patriot, help me out here.
Well,
I don't know what to
okay.
tell him right now.
So I was an ardent defender of the Michelle Obama is a man nonsense because I find that completely pointless, and it bothers me that people have to freaking resort to that. But
Whether she's a man or not, why does it matter?
oh, well, it would matter if Obama was gay or not, right?
Yeah.
Why? Why does anybody's
To me, it
sexual?
doesn't matter.
That's but that's my
Like,
point.
it doesn't
Like,
matter.
why is it a
but-
topic of discussion at
but
all?
if
What's in their pants and who they fuck does not matter to me. Are they married? Are they in a consensual, loving relationship?
If
That
that's the case, I agree with you 100%. My
and,
problem,
and
I think I
even if they're not
mentioned
in a consensual, loving relationship, if that's all we see, who cares?
well, this goes back to
exactly.
Rush Limbaugh's statement about how America is not ready for a gay president. So then maybe Obama's managers were like, okay, you can't be gay, so we're gonna put you with Michelle, and you're gonna be a happy, loving couple, or whatever. But I'm
Oh
like,
my
they have
God.
kids, and the kids look like them, you know?
Yeah,
That's just true. Her
they
volume was so
definitely.
low.
I don't think that's true. I think they're definitely married. I think she is a woman. I think that he's not gay, but
Dude, everything in the White. My point is, everything in the White House can't be a conspiracy. It takes too much work to pull all of these things off.
literally, yeah,
Pick
no
one
joke.
and stick to it, but you can't pick two. It's just illogical. The odds, the statistics aren't in your fucking favor. Pick a big one or pick a small one, but they can't be doing both. It's like, did we make it to space, or if we didn't make it to space, I don't know.
Or what is it? Did the Holocaust happen? We don't know.
Whoa, I
Pretty
think
sure we know, but
But that was no.
Do you think the Holocaust happened? I gotta ask now.
yes, I do. I definitely do.
Oh, like, hold the fuck on.
I will say though, some of the people that were talking about that, I think they weren't really talking about it not happening. I think that they were talking about stats somewhere, and it was mostly Gen Z, just like shit posting, trying to just be super edgy and super detailed.
Yeah.
But
People just need to be a contrarian. That's all.
well, they're Gen Z. The ones that are talking the most about
Gen
somebody's
Z,
point.
which one's Z?
Generation Z.
No, we're millennial. We're millennial. You
Yeah.
guys are core, and I'm technically core, but I'm on the younger end of core, so that's kind of why I relate.
Fucking Core. I've never heard of Core.
Well,
Core.
so Pete
Right.
is being considered
So you're
millennial, right?
Core?
No, we're all millennials,
We're all
but
millennial?
but she's more core, as in she's more in the
In the
middle.
dead center of the generation. Yeah.
Sorry, it was
No, it's okay. It was like core strength
Like,
in the
what?
millennial age group.
yeah. I'm a millennial, but I'm 89. I feel like I should still be away from you people.
No,
But
it's
he's 23, so he's technically Gen Z. I think
He's
he goes
not
up to 22.
He's 37 years old.
no, I'm
What a-
33.
Are you 30?
Wait, I thought you were 23.
No,
See, some girls actually believe me. Girls
No,
like,
I didn't believe you. I'm joking. I actually believe you that you are not 23.
Patriot, you have lost all credibility on this podcast. This interview is over. This has been the no.
Okay.
You're all right. All right, I'm just playing.
No. To be fair, you did tell me you were not 23 while you told me you were 23, so you kind of gave it away.
Yeah, I did.
Like
He said, yeah, as far as the podcast goes, they have to listen to it if they want to know. You're 33, we're setting it, letting people know.
So yeah, Pete's
I still haven't seen his ID, though. He very well could be 40, and we don't know.
No. I was thinking that.
Let's get back to the question. All right. I'm gonna pick one of these at random. Does that justify radicalism? Okay, I guess I should read what came before.
Because it was supposed to be the quote and then the questions.
All right,
we're gonna run deep.
We're gonna try with a quote. Let's start with this.
Okay.
Every normal man must be tempted at times to spit on his hands, hoist the black flag, and begin slitting throats. H.L. Mencken. Who the fuck is H.L. Mencken?
The guy that said that.
Oh, don't say some shit. Do you know who the fuck that is? Where did you pull this quote from?
I pulled it from H.L. Mencken.
Bitch,
I actually read.
Explain who H.L. Mencken is.
H.L. Mencken was it's been a while. He's a writer, an American writer.
All right, you're useless. So he says, every man must be tempted at times to spit on his hands, hoist the black flag, and begin slitting throats. Does that justify radicalism, such as Antifa or the people? This is a terrible question. I should have read this one before.
Well,
because you're talking about a man's opinion. This is his opinion. Does his opinion justify radicalism? I mean, no individual's opinion justifies radicalism, Frank.
That's true.
No, but
for you, it does lead into the question for me. How do you feel about radicalists? Do you think there's ever a point where it is necessary to become radical? Is there ever a point where it is necessary for a militia to fucking jump up in arms and fight against its government? Because that's what these radicals are, right? They're essentially an armed or unarmed militia.
We're talking about the Boog Boys, right?
The who boys?
The Boogaloo.
Boogaloo?
Yeah.
I'm
for that, to be quite frank.
Oh, that's not the electric boogaloo.
I am for that in that particular context, but when we're talking Antifa or any groups that have gotten to the point where they are.
Well, what's boogaloo?
Boogaloo?
It's the
Not that I don't know. We need to.
I keep forgetting. I know.
We're on the podcast.
It's modern day militia, boogaloo to overthrow the government, like a mini raid.
It's a response to all of these new bills that have been getting passed for gun control. So essentially you have the majority of Americans that don't want to lose their guns or have them bought back for like pennies on the dollar. They're not giving up their guns. And this is pretty much the response to the people that believe that they should be able to keep their guns because they're constitutionalists, in my opinion, for the most part. However, not entirely. You have a lot of anarchists, and I'm really close to an anarchist with a lot of my ideals, but not entirely. And with some stuff, I'm definitely more authoritarian because obviously, like, some stuff needs to be implemented. But
you sound like Frank until you said authoritarianism. You sound like the perfect amalgamation of us two.
Yeah. She's that close to being a libertarian. But then she said authoritarian, and I'm like, that's not very
You very quickly become my favorite guest that we've had so far. Please forgive me, Kim. You are definitely up there, but we got to have you back on with a proper recording because we fucked up that recording last time.
Oh, God.
Kim, that's just a shout out, a little private message to Kim out there. Miss Coulter, please message me back.
Dude, maybe we could all get on here and do this at some point. That would be cool.
Yeah, it's a party.
Wow, that's an idea. That's a great idea. Actually, I want to get her. Who is her husband? Right, she is married. Who is her husband?
Tim Toxic.
Yeah, I heard him on one of her episodes with her, and I love the way they communicate with each other. It's very obvious why they're in a relationship. They communicate so fucking well with each other on significant issues. Too. Yeah, I'd really like to. If I was. Yeah, we got to work on getting them back on.
Yeah, I'm thinking of having him on before we have her back on.
Oh, that would be good. That would be good. But we digress. Let's not get distracted from our current guest.
And we do have some more people, by the way, that are in the gun group, too, that could probably maybe show their
we'll take names, but to be honest with you, I've never thought we would be this popular, dude. But we actually have guests booked for about a couple month period right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got an author to come on.
That's amazing.
Yeah, just a little tease. We have a local author this time. Last time he was based out of Dallas. We have a local one who's a Hispanic American author who It's an amazing book. What was it called? Once Upon a Time.
Once Upon a
Once
Bad
upon.
Hombre.
Yeah, Once Upon a Bad Hombre, and his name was Gabriel Hugo.
Yes.
And it's a book about, just a little teaser, so hopefully we have him on soon. It's a book about, okay, the children of the border towns here in Texas are
Sure.
disappearing. There's
Oh, yeah.
a conspiracy theory that the government's trying to get rid of all Mexicans in a whole foul swoop, final, what was it called?
Countdown.
Yeah, like a final countdown for all the Mexicans in America. And there's black ash falling from the sky. Those were the 3 talking points that I read about that just had me captivated. So we're gonna read that book. Hopefully, have Gabriel Hugo on, and yeah. But we definitely plan. We've got a whole litany of people we want to have on. We want to hit the Hispanic community. Yeah. So enough about the podcast.
We got
Excuse
to
me.
focus on kind of the stuff we can relate to, right? To an extent. I mean, I think that's important. You guys are there. You understand that. I would never know anything about that because, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
like
in a border state, but it's nothing like where you guys are at.
yeah, it's interesting for people that are like in Ohio or New York or New
Ohio
Jersey
and New
that
York, yeah.
they talk to us about, and they have no idea what it's like. Well, they're Medicare and stuff. Oh my God, talk about shit, right? But then they have no idea what it's like to have the alleviation of being a border town where you can get cheap
Yeah.
medication right across the border and send your cousin over for fucking non-tax tequila if you hide it under your seat. You know what I mean? You don't gotta pay that duty-free tax if they don't know it's there, baby.
Not that we're
I
endorsing.
knew the only
Not that
time
we
I've been to
endorse
the
that.
border.
That's illegal. Don't do it. Sorry, what'd you say?
For all intents and purposes on this podcast is humor, satire.
What? Are we funny? We're very serious.
I'm totally
No, these aren't
quoting.
jokes.
I'm quoting
Steal your
another
shit.
podcast. Do you guys know who Too Savage for Democrats is?
You need to understand there's 900,000 podcasts now. That is an
He's a
actual
big one.
statistic.
He's been a big one since the elections. That's why I'm asking. He doesn't talk
No,
to me or anything.
no.
I have a
don't
lot of
think-
research to do thanks
Yeah.
to you.
I-
I have to
oh,
actually
yay.
like start paying attention to
too.
what we talk about. No, I rely on our guests to do all the research, and then I ask you questions. That's how this works. That's how we
Get
learn.
interested enough and then go do research on what's interesting.
Well, because we can't look everything.
Yeah,
We just
literally, no.
It's impossible. Everybody you're telling me I might be able to look into 1 or 2 of these people, but everyone
No, well,
there's no
okay,
way.
so it doesn't matter. You don't even have to look into him. But if you happen to see him, I'm quoting his thing, which is where he says what, for all intents and purposes, all of the content is satire because nobody wants to get shut down on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Censorship.
Right. Yeah, in the end you always claim ignorance, right? And
Yeah, I
humor.
didn't mean it like that. Well, okay, and honestly,
It seems like that though. I'm sorry, but people try and get away with saying shit in a funny way. And you know, I try and be funny here, but I'm also very serious about what I'm talking about. If I feel like I've misstated something, I'll go back and say, hey, last time I said this, let me clarify. Because as much as you want to be entertaining and funny, you also want to represent yourself correctly and not, I hate the bullshit out there, man. There's some podcasts where it's just a fucking show, NPR and all this shit where it's just, you can tell they're saying the shit because they have to, not because they genuinely believe it. You can hear the intonation in a person's voice when they don't actually believe what they're saying.
Right.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
You don't hear that shit on this podcast. You don't hear that shit on Rogan. You don't hear that shit on
Take the shot.
King and the Sting, you know, all these great podcasts that I'm a fan of. They're all comedic based, but they also joke about shit that they shouldn't joke about because fuck you telling me I can't make jokes when things are funny.
Funny, yeah. Or just like, at least it's kind of like jokes are a way of like getting people to pay attention to. They're not necessarily just for humor. They're kind of like, haha, I'm lightening the fact that this is really dark. You want to look at this, by the way?
Yeah.
So I think that's really critical in politics or anything in life, but especially just people as a society, as a culture, we need to understand how to communicate. Screens have removed that, but this podcast like movement that I've been noticing has just been popping up. Like, I feel like Rogan kind of started it, but like, I don't know if he did really, but I feel like that's when I started to get into him. And then The Scoop was the first podcast, and then so on The Scoop you have Steve and Cam, so it's 2 people again. So they talk to each other and they bounce off of each other. So it's more entertaining to watch 2 people bounce off of each other and like exchange ideas than it is, even like you said earlier, to just watch that one person talk.
Right.
But the bottom line is, like, I just think there's obviously a reason podcasts are taking off, and it's because people want like grassroots opinions and conversations, and they don't want it from
Well, there's no denying what you're saying. You are saying it. You are expressing it in the best way you know how to in that moment. And because you can record another episode, you can fix that statement later on. It's showing people that our opinions aren't written down and set in stone like they are on Twitter, where you go back a year ago and bitch at them, even though they don't even agree with that statement they made a year ago. We grow and we evolve. And if you're listening to if you're listening to a group of people on a podcast or a duo on a podcast, you can hear their opinions change episode to episode until they're not even the same people you started with. You grow with each other. It's a beautiful thing. But when you can go back and like take a little clip out, like, and it's gonna be the same. It's gonna be the same thing. Eventually, you're gonna get to the point where they take clips out of this podcast and just, but then you have hours of content disproving that theory. When you only have like a sentence statement that you post every week or so, there's not enough content there for you to differentiate the difference of opinion that they had, or the nuance of opinion that they intended, rather.
Exactly. No, and that's why I think I used to read a lot of articles. And so when I finally kind of was like paying attention to like some of the stuff Trump wasn't saying, even with the video stuff, though, it's kind of crazy because it's edited. But the Charlottesville rally, right, was the Unite the Right rally, wherever that happened, where he said good people on both sides. Like, that was so completely taken out of context. And I feel like a large majority of people that realize, like, there's something messed up when they looked at that. But, like, you don't know that when you're reading. So, like, even until a certain point, it did make more sense. So I watch a lot more videos than I used to, because I used to just read articles, but that's exactly what it is. You get the nuance, you get the kind of, is a person taking a breath because they're thinking, or did they think real hard before they blew up this Twitter page? You know, are they and me, like, I'm a very observational person, and if you do check in the Briggs-Myers test, I'm very much an INTP, which pretty much means I literally will just think about things until I die. I will think of them in 1,000 different ways.
I feel like I used to be that way for sure. I overthought everything, and it's only within I think the last time I did a heavy dose of mushrooms, it just like rewired my brain. It rewires you. I swear to God, I can't fucking tell people this enough. I was so beyond suicidal. I was such a functional addict, such a functional depressive, that nobody gave a shit that I was having these breakdowns and emotional issues, because I got through them, because I had to, right? I didn't want to disappoint anybody by killing myself. It wasn't about I didn't want to die. I just didn't want to disappoint people after I died.
Yep, I totally.
And that's all it was. Then I took a massive dose of mushrooms, expecting to fucking find the devil in me and hate every single thing that I saw and have a bad trip. I wanted that bad trip so I could fucking face my devils, you know?
Yeah.
But the only worry I had was, am I being a good father? Awesome. And every question I asked myself was, you're doing fine. You're doing good. It lets you really just put things into perspective in a way that your brain doesn't allow you to. And once you're able to do it one time. I'm sorry?
I said it's so funny you're bringing this up, because I feel like now I need to go find some mushrooms. I used to do them a lot, and I literally, like the story you're bringing up, I have one that's similar, but.
Yeah, what's the largest dose you did, if you don't mind?
Because the city I'm from, it's a college, it's a very famous college town, and we're not hopefully going to show it on my shirt too much, but
yeah, no, it's all over this place here. I really thought you'd go change.
No, it's whatever at this point, but hopefully
we'll try and crop it. We'll do our best to crop it, but no promises there.
You can just a little bit, but like whatever.
Yeah.
People are gonna be people.
But yeah, like I said, we'll do our best with it. We'll be as respectful as we can to your requests there.
Well, I'm from a city that's very famous in Ohio, and it's politically very famous, but it's hippie college kids. It's not like, it's not like a hood college town. So there's mushrooms and LSD and until the heroin epidemic, which started after I moved, by the way.
Yikes.
I actually had a lot of friends that just started dropping dead across the country while I was in Arizona, and that like messed with me. But we used to just be a hippie drug city, and so like marijuana, okay, and LSD.
Oh, weed, mushrooms. Yeah, right. Hippie shit.
Yeah, hippie, literally. So, I mean, my friends, my guy friends, because a lot of the girls didn't experiment as much as I did, but some of them did. But for the most part, I hung out with my guy friends who did it much harder than I. And one time we did some DMT, and that was interesting. That might be one of my favorites. But
I'm so angry that I never got a chance to grab it before it went illegal. Because it wasn't the Valley, the drugs they're ridiculously cheap. You get a lot of cocaine for $20. So you get locked
because you're
into
the border.
Yeah, we get the easily procurable shit right here at the border. So if it's a cheap drug, that's what we're doing. Heroin, crack, that shit never made it. Apparently we had some sort of meth epidemic
Oh,
here,
this guy in one of my
but I
cellmates was
never
telling
saw
me
meth. I never saw
that
meth.
fucking rock is such a hard fucking sell down here that,
Because cocaine is so cheap. Like, it's as cheap as a rock would be. That's why.
Yeah,
Because it
that
literally, I can't say more, but it is so easy to procure. It is, like, literally, you could spit on a bag of cocaine if you
I
wanted. If
feel
you
like it's easy to get anywhere, but I've never been an upper type of a person.
Well,
So
hold on. It's easy to get anywhere, but I'm talking about quality cocaine.
quality for that price, true.
Because I've gone 3 hours from here and spent 3 times as much
Oh,
for
yeah.
shittier quality. I'm talking about quality. I'm sorry. I missed.
But point being, no, I don't mess with the uppers. And I usually kind of stop doing that after, like, I realized how serious my condition was too. But I will say, I've been in enough experience to understand where you're coming from with quality and price.
Yeah. Right.
I've seen it, and I believe it, and especially because you're by the border. But
Oh yeah, ecstasy pill. How? Okay, I gotta ask. Have you ever fucked with ecstasy?
Molly and Eno.
Molly.
Wait,
Okay.
one time
Do
in
you have would
California.
you know a price range? I'm just curious. From Arizona to
No,
Texas.
I have
what the
no
difference?
idea about a price range, but I did moon rocks in California, which is like supposed to be E in like rock form or whatever. Like, I'm not really
Oh,
sure.
that's not what moon rocks are anymore. You go to
No, moon
Colorado.
rocks are marijuana now.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Dude, those look so bomb. I
they're
would
different,
fucking lose
but
all sobriety for that shit.
well, people will tell me they're like, I have moon rocks, and I'm like, do you know what you're talking about? And then I'm like, oh, you're talking about like the what is it, the keef and the resin covered like
Yeah,
pre-roll
keepers
shapes.
and all of it.
Yeah, it's super extra potent bud basically is what moon rocks are. Those moon rocks. But no, the moon rocks I took, I have no idea how much they cost, but I don't ever seek out stuff like that. The only stuff I ever paid for personally was like marijuana and mushrooms.
Yeah, well, you're an attractive girl. You don't have to pay for things if you want it. When it
Oh,
comes to
you're
drugs,
so nice. You're
when
so
it comes
nice.
to drugs, do not tell me you didn't smoke a shitload of free weed and do a shitload of other free shit.
I'm
I've
not
never.
gonna deny it. I
I'm
totally
gonna
won't.
tell you right now, the only thing I've ever done for free was a fucking bump or two out of a friend's bag of coke. Because for some reason, cocaine is such a miserable feeling fucking drug. You need everybody around you to do it with you. And weed because it's cheap. But cocaine and weed, nobody shares their Molly with you or their acid with you. You pay for that shit,
Oh, I
unless
had the DMT was given to me, but I was down
you're
even
an
that.
attractive girl. I
But
wouldn't get free DMT.
so
That's my
no, listen, the DMT thing, they didn't give me as much as they gave themselves, but this is what's so fucking funny about it. I had like the perfect amount to like enjoy my trip, and I had like one of my guy friends in my apartment was like melting into the wall, like, I see the devil, I see the devil, and I'm like,
so lucky.
and I just like put my iPod on and I was like frolicking in the woods somewhere by my house. I like don't even know, but it was a great fucking day. And if I don't have addiction problems, I have experimented with a lot. And you're right, I've tried a lot of those things you're asking, but I do not seek them out. But I forgot I tried them because they don't matter that much to me. But
Right,
yeah,
right.
the DMT.
Yeah, I realized a few podcasts back that my addiction problem isn't with any particular substance. It's just with the novelty of changing the mindset. So
Yeah,
I can be an alcoholic for a month and then not give a shit about it for 2 years as long as I got good weed. And then if the
yeah.
weed is boring, if I can get some cocaine for a weekend, it'll reset me altogether. And then if the cocaine, I've gotten too crazy with that, like, well, all this shit's boring me. Let me get a massive dose of mushrooms and just be sober for a year and get high off being sober for a year.
Well, mushrooms are the best though because it's like you open. I love them, and this is the last time I did them because I used to do them all the time when I was younger. But when I moved to California, the last time I ever did them was in Cali because for some reason Arizona. Okay, Arizona can't grow its own shit. Apparently, I don't believe
No
that.
peyote? I thought peyote was a big thing in Arizona, the
Um,
desert climate.
You hear about it a lot, but
Well,
I mean,
it's overhunted is the problem. It's hard to find it now. The people that know the patches don't share anymore or
I
sell.
don't know anything about. That's actually something I've always considered trying, but I haven't. But the mushrooms, they're like double what you would pay in Cleveland or Orange County here, and they're literally crap.
Yeah, you know what you could do now that's legal? Well, I don't know about Arizona, but I know here you can ship a couple different hallucinogenics that are all natural. There's a San Pedro cactus where you boil the outside husk of it. You can actually order trimmings as just yard plants, but you order a 6-inch trimming, you boil it up, and it's basically the same chemicals that are in peyote.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so that's legal,
Is
and
it
then
psilocybin? Is that what it's in all three of them? LSD and mushrooms and
I think it's a type of lysergic acid, but I don't think psilocybin is
I've never
specific to
said it.
mushrooms.
Okay. Well, I think it's LSD too, because that's how they concentrate it and they make it LSD, right? Isn't that how that goes?
I don't think LSD comes from mushrooms at all.
Not mushrooms, but the chemical. It's manufactured. Whatever is in mushrooms.
Could
That's what I
could
thought.
be. I'm not
I'm
I'm
not
not
positive.
into
I
that.
thought I
Yeah,
heard that, but
but if you are looking for a legal high, fuck you, government. You still made it legal. It's still legal right now. Y'all are gonna change it soon
damn.
anyway, I'm sure, because you already cut down on salvia. I was so pissed. I finally rediscovered salvia. I wanted to order some, and then they made it illegal like the week I was gonna order it.
Isn't that Miley Cyrus's fault? I'm pretty sure she was
I
doing something.
probably
Yeah.
everything's Miley Cyrus's fault. She
I'm
ruined
pretty sure she
that
like had some
giant
publicity on that. Maybe it was Amanda Bynes when she was going crazy. I don't remember, but
going crazy, bitch, been crazy. I
I
love
think
her.
she's better now. She looks better.
Whatever. I
I
love crazy
don't know.
chicks. Just ask Frank about my ex. I love crazy chicks.
I love crazy chicks too.
uh, but I only marry sane ones. I married a sane one, thank God.
I don't marry anyone.
I couldn't
Yeah,
get.
I'm hoping most of the crazy girls are less crazy by the time they're women, but
They're not. They just choose something like more serious. They choose politics to get serious into, and then they're way too one way or the other about it.
He's being very.
yeah.
I'm being very specific, but not that
Well,
specific. I'm still accurate, I'd say, in a general sense.
are you speaking
And
of someone specifically here?
no, since we're already bleeping out names, fuck you.
Because we're already bleeping out names. Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Go for it.
Yeah, if I get to bleep out a name for you, I gotta make sure I remember by having to bleep out somebody myself. We'll let that slip through. Anyway, so let's get down to our final questions here. Is there any questions that you for sure wanted to ask there, Frank? I'm gonna pick at least one of these vegan ones, and then we're gonna
Okay,
try
well,
and go with some inappropriate
one
questions.
thing I am curious about, with your vegan lifestyle,
I thought those were gonna be my questions.
and no, well, it's I wrote it down and you're like, okay,
Okay, no, go ahead. Go
yeah.
ahead. Sorry.
What happened with you being a vet tech and your vegan lifestyle? Are cruelty-free products part of your vegan lifestyle?
So, thank you for asking that question because this is kind of a big reason why I believe in inclusion. I think that ideally, I mean, again, with the whole back to the, I don't think vet tech has anything to do with it. It's more the fact that, look, I agree with you guys in the whole Native American, like, respect your food.
Of course, yeah, you did mention that earlier,
They're
that if you
living
were at,
things. So I would never, you know, I believe that if an animal is, if we use it for its meat, we should use its skin, we should use its hooves, we should use it so that we don't waste another life to just use the same type of thing later on. That's waste, in my opinion. So,
yeah, what's weird to me, like, if I'm sorry, real quick, like, I trim the meat off of just regular meat. I don't throw it in the people that throw their waste in the trash. I don't fucking get it. There's a dozen cats outside that kill for that fucking meat. They literally
yeah,
kill each other when they don't have food. Take your scraps and throw them out to the fucking
yes,
road.
yes,
Animals will eat
yeah.
it. The birds,
Yep.
anybody. It's such a simple little addition to your life like that justifies you eating that way.
Right.
But when you have no respect for the meat and like half your food is going in the garbage because you're not hungry enough,
Right.
fuck you, dude.
No,
Like, and
exactly. And I will
that's where
say, I used to be a huge purse fanatic, a huge handbag fanatic, and I totally still am. But this
You
was
are still, don't lie. You
I
just
am, but I actually like used to be really like bratty about my bags because like it doesn't matter how much money I have. There's
I gotta
a
ask,
couple of things I've spent money on was bags and
Junie
bikinis.
and Burke, Coach,
Well,
or
no
Prada?
judgment.
Who?
No, there's
Yeah, I know my shit. I got 4 sisters.
well, there's a level where I would never spend money over, and I always got my purses from like outlets, but they were still new. They were just like last season because
Yeah.
there's no point in spending an exorbitant amount. I would probably spend max like $200 on a purse, but
Yeah, same.
they lasted for. Oh, really?
Yes, really. I bought a lot of fucking purses in my life.
Oh, good point. You are a husband. Okay, true. Maybe
And a brother. and a son.
you bought them
What?
purses. Have you purchased purses for your brother and your son?
No, I am a brother and I am a son.
Oh.
Sisters
I'm
and
like,
a mother.
why did you buy your son a purse? Does he want
Hey,
it?
don't judge, all right? He wanted it. He's
Go
a
for
beautiful
it, dude.
guy.
Let him figure it out, man. Just no
Yeah,
surgery.
no. No. Just no.
Just negatory on that one, yeah.
Well, I disagree with putting him in a position where he has to defend his choices. Like, there are certain choices that are socially unacceptable at the time. Just don't do that. I wouldn't let him go outside wearing tights and a fucking crop top. I wouldn't let a 9-year-old girl do that. Why would I let a 9-year-old boy do that?
Right.
He's also 7. I don't know why I said 9. Anyway.
Yeah, you were talking about bags.
So bags, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I used to get the more expensive ones, and they were just like Coach or I don't do Dooney and Burke because I was an asshole and they were too below me for that. Apparently, I just think their patterns are kind of cheesy. I never really cared.
You're really girly, right? They're very immature.
They were immature, yeah, and I don't think they're good bags. Like
You know what? They're not as bad as Betsy Johnson, though. I worked at a Betsy Johnson outlet. I had 2 of them, actually. I opened up 2 of them with my manager. And those Betsy Johnsonville bags are so ridiculous. They're like plastic glued together.
They are, but this is so fucking funny that you're mentioning this right now because I was just going to say I stopped buying. Well, first and foremost, I ran out of money when I started getting more sick, so I still
Right.
like purses. But if you go into like Marshalls, like you can get a Betsy Johnson bag for like $30.
Oh, yeah. The shit. I think we just got a Coach purse for a birthday present for like $45. That was original price $250
A
or
big
something.
one, like a decent size.
Yeah,
one.
it's good size, like not a clutch,
Yeah.
like a little carry. Yeah.
And you can get that if you look to the right place. But I used to carry so much in my purses that they were
Oh,
just
TJ Maxx. I'm sorry, it wasn't Marshalls. I think it was
Marshalls
TJ.
were same place.
Same
Good.
shit.
Same exact literal place. Ross, do you guys have Ross in Texas?
Oh yeah. Ross for less, bitch.
There's no Ross in Ohio. I don't know.
My inner gay just fucking exploded the last 5
Yeah,
minutes.
it's okay. We're not here to judge.
Bitchute, Buttigieg, boy.
I know all these things, and I'm gonna run for identity politics next year because I can tell you about handbags.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You got this. But yeah, no, Betsy
Give me
Johnson
a
I
free
like because they
podcast.
never fell apart, and they're totally vegan. But my boots are leather, so. And I eat collagen. I think I mentioned the connective tissue problem with the hernias. That's part of my condition. So there's no vegan alternative to that.
For collagen. Collagen comes from what?
I believe it's like the ground up like byproduct bones.
It's bone, right? Yeah, like the bone marrow.
Marrow. I'm not entirely exactly sure, but it's in that general realm. And the thing is, it's crazy because like I do think it's helped me a little bit to use it more, but I can't be completely vegan like that. I'm 90% vegan, obviously, but that's my point.
What about cheese, eggs?
Whew,
I know
okay.
I really like to avoid these questions because I know the answers. I feel like, but just since I don't know, never mind. I don't care about the problem is the nutrition aspect of it bothers me because everybody's nutrition is different. What works for you?
Yeah.
There are people doing the meat eater diet right now where it's 100% meat.
That paleo.
No. 100% nothing but salt and pepper on meat for months at a time. This is a very popular thing.
Jordan Peterson's daughter, Michaela Peterson.
And he followed it because of her. And Joe Rogan tried it for a month, and it completely got rid of his vitiligo. Like, it alleviated his vitiligo, skin conditions, a lot of things. But there's arguments to say that it's just a restrictive diet, that because you're eliminating other products that are not healthy for you, that's what's helping you out.
That's the bottom line too, right? Is people will say, "Oh, this is meat. Okay, well, where is it sourced from?" And then Tommy Lauren had a segment too at some point. I do have to leave in the next 20 minutes, just FYI. But I will keep babbling until you guys tell me to stop.
Oh no, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry, I just saw that. We're at the 2-hour mark here. Wow, what a great! Can you believe? This is one of the first times I've been with Rogan on that statement. Like, time really flies. Shot. What was with your fucking shot?
Because it's a fucking game we have with the fucking listeners.
Every time I mention Rogan, take a shot. I can't believe I just realized you were doing that. You asshole.
Oh, you didn't go prepared. Are you guys about to party today?
No, for our listeners, because yeah, Joe Rogan, Take a Shot is like the go-to podcast, like what podcasters aspire to be, I guess.
One day, Frank stated, we mentioned Rogan so much that we should make it a drinking game for people who listen to our podcast every time.
I did that episode. I think I did. I think I ended up leaving and didn't finish it or something, but I feel like you guys did talk about that when I was listening to you. That's funny.
It's ridiculous. Wow. So you're getting wasted on the show. We're going to have to put it in the description.
Our party episodes. We're talking about the drugs, and then like 6 fucking shots for mentioning that one guy.
Hey, you know what? This was such a great podcast. I really don't. I feel like anything we say next is going to lead into another 5-minute conversation. So we're not going to do that to you. We're going to let you get out of here. This was phenomenal. Loved having you on. Frank, do you want any last minute questions?
One last thing I have to know.
I have to.
Yes.
With the Magoa.
So I could have sworn you were gonna ask her if what her. I thought you were gonna ask her the anal question.
No, the what's it called, the logo.
Let that go.
Yeah, the Magoa logo. Whose idea was that?
Oh, that's
fingers.
That's Kim. This is her brainchild. Wait, the fingers.
Yes, there was this logo.
Yeah, like fingers. Because I'm like, I was the one that commented that it's female empowerment.
It's a little sexually suggestive as well, though, with the fingers out. It is. You can't look at it as a male. Okay, maybe it goes above a female at time to look at it, but for both of us, it was immediate. Like, is this a new comedy special coming up with a shocker with fucking who was it, Dane Cook?
No, but then that's why, because female empowerment. I don't need no man. Bam.
Take care of yourself.
See, this is how, and I can get along with guys a lot more than girls most of the time, but the girls I do tend to get along with, they tend to feel similarly with me about other girls. However, you're still boys that I feel like girls would never pick up on that for. I don't think a girl would ever think that, but I get what you're saying. It's not out of your head now, but you planted it in there.
I feel like it might need to be addressed. Maybe modified a little bit.
No, I like the logo.
I like it, but I get what you're saying. I don't think most people are going to be thinking that, though. But
I disagree.
Well, most people aren't us.
I disagree wholeheartedly.
I don't know.
The common denominator for everybody is sex. If you can bring anything back to sex, your brain will go to it at some point.
I think I opened a can of worms.
I know, you done fucked up. This is supposed to be the sign-off, and you asked the 5-minute question.
I have to know. Because
I'll let you ask him about that. I personally, I like it, but I'm not the one who made it, and I do like it a lot, actually. I'm a pastel blue, pink kind of a girl, and, like, if I ever, like, create something for myself, like, brand-wise, it's going to have those kind of color tones. So I like it, but I
no, please don't think that we're talking. We're not talking shit. I don't think it's I think it's a great logo, but if it's gonna look that way, you have to address it. Like, well, you know what? It's because Kim is very normal. She's not super one way, And
I'm sure she picked up on it too.
And she wasn't upset when you kind of mentioned it either on the comment section, right?
Yeah.
Somebody liked it, right?
Yeah, somebody liked it.
She did, I think. So I know.
I think I remember when you posted, but I don't think I understood what you were saying. No, maybe not. I don't even remember. I would have to go look at it again.
Female empowerment.
Yeah, I said that's very It's a female empowerment innuendo, but a female empowerment symbol nonetheless.
Innuendo, there you go. That's
I
yeah.
did see that. That was me who liked it, but we all get on there. The problem with having so there's 3 admins. So if you do have me and Kim on, have Trace on too. For the Magawa, is that what we're gonna call it? Magawa?
That's what I've called it.
The Magwai. Don't get him wet. Wait, no, that's not good either. That's gonna
Let her spit it out, because we gotta close.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Not gonna lie, I forgot what we were talking about.
I do it, Magua. So how do you feel overall about the?
Yeah, Tracy, Magua.
Oh yeah, no, we're all admins. So my point being is that sometimes if we'll get a notification, we've talked to each other from the same account before, and we've been who's talking to who, and I've never been an admin on an account with other people before, so we're all just kind of I'll get a notification for Magawa, and then unintentionally I'll sign back into to that account. You know what I'm saying? I'll be on VP, and then I'll get a notification, and I think I just happened to be on VP, and then I got a notification, and it just I unintentionally clicked to sign into that account instead, and I read it, but I didn't understand that's what you were saying.
So now you're gonna go back and unlike it, right?
I don't think anyone did, or someone would have commented by now. But thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, that was a good way to end it.
Honestly, though, no, seriously, if that's what people are genuinely thinking, we should know about it. But maybe it's just you two.
Female empowerment. She don't need no man.
No, what you do is you throw some rings on there, so you make it obvious that that's not what it's used for. Because that's just
it has a ring.
Right?
It's like a flower ring.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
It's Frank's fault. He put it in my head. I probably didn't think about it before him. He's the pervert, not me.
Oh,
hey, this is done.
I forgot about the rose ring too,
No. This is over. I am putting a fork in it. That's the last straw. This has been the Completely Inappropriate Podcast, everybody. We have been on with the Vegan Patriot, with Mr. Frank, with me. You can find us at completelyinappropriatepodcast@gmail.com, Completely In-App on Twitter, at CI Podcast on Instagram, at BitChute, YouTube, Facebook, all at Completely Inappropriate Podcast. BitChute with some underscores between those words, people. Don't forget that, because Frank doesn't know how to be consistent with our fucking names.
Nope.
So, that is it. That was a hell of a fucking 2 hours, man.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you guys
Great.
so much.
Patriot, any last words, any words of wisdom, any last message you want to get out there to
Where
the people?
can people find you?
Oh, and your handles, yeah.
So, yeah, okay. I'll give the handles out. And like I said, I've been kind of slowly working on this, at least in summer, but I've been in 2 states in the last 4 or 5 months. So I'm moving entirely across the country. But I have been slowly doing what I can. So I have established...
The good thing is social media doesn't go anywhere. It's the same anywhere you're at. So.
Well, yeah, it's just you kind of want to keep people engaged while they're engaged. But I'm finally starting to get people that are actually, like I said, they seem interested. But crap, Frank, your specific question was what specifically?
Wait, no, we're not doing the questions anymore. We're wrapping up.
You asked me something, didn't you? And I was answering it. Oh,
it was about the finger guns.
Yeah. What handles? Okay, so
the handles, yes.
I have these handles set up. My point being, I don't have a lot of content on them yet, but they're going to be up soon. So the most active ones are going to be Twitter, and I think that's it's Patriot_vegan on Twitter, but it looks like Vegan Patriot when you look at the name. But if you want to find me, it's Vegan_Patriot. I do have a BitChute for Vegan Patriot, but I don't use it because I'm confused, and I only get on BitChute to watch things, so I'm still not sure how to use BitChute. I have a TikTok with Vegan Patriot. I have a Parler. I believe my name is Vegan Patriot, but my handle is Vegan Deplorable because someone took Vegan Patriot. And I didn't vote for Trump, but my original name was Vegan Deplorable. But I was like, since I technically didn't vote for Trump, I might as well just do Vegan Patriot. And then there's Instagram, of course. I live on Instagram. Fuck Facebook. You'll never find me on there. I don't fucking mess with Facebook.
They're owned by the same people. Facebook owns Instagram.
Yeah, so it's more of a social thing for me because we get more. I feel safe in my Instagram bubble because it's
Facebook's fucked up. Yeah.
Facebook is a whole different.
We're not getting into that. Yeah. All right, continue with your head.
So no Facebook. Yeah. So Twitter, Vegan_Patriot. Instagram is Patriot_. No shit.
Vegan_Patriot.
Vegan Patriot, yes. Vegan_Patriot's Instagram, and then the Twitter one is Patriot_vegan. And then
All right,
yeah,
so
vegan
if you can't find it one way, flip it around. You'll find it.
flip it around, yeah, basically. And I don't think a lot of people apparently have tried to take that handle, so I just stole it across the board. And eventually, guys, I'll be posting more content. Just it's slow progress, but it's
Well, you let us know whenever you're posting. We'll do our best to repost and get it out there on our end too. This has been a shitload of fun. Do you have any last words of wisdom for the people?
for the people, no, but we'll be back, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. Frank, what do we tell the lovely listeners?
Be excellent to each other.
And people, just find your happy. Wherever it is, grab it, hold on to it, put it in your pocket, and lock it. Don't let it go. Love you guys. Bye. Say bye, everybody.
Bye.
Frank.
Bye.
I was like waiting for that.